Hello, everyone. I'm Captain Logan. It's time for DCEU Mania. It is our second show, and naturally, of course, we don't get to pick the order. We're doing BVS. We're doing the Batman vs. Superman Ultimate Cut tonight, and we've got a panel for this show. Look, as always, it's my regular co-host and sidekick, Austin the Day Ghost.
What's up, everybody?
And this time we also have the co-host of Counting Crypto Freaks: The Revenge. It's John Sandoval.
It's a Superman thing, so I'm here.
And by way of nepotism, we have my son Jason.
Sure. Hello. I'm here.
Jason, why did you want to do this show specifically?
Because I've always put what the movie that we're about to watch, which is called Batman v Superman, instead of versus. I don't know. I've always put it as one of my least favorite movies of all time. But
that's why we have John here.
I only saw it once, and it was like 3 or 4 years ago at this point, and I need to watch it again. But I don't want to watch it unless it's for content. So this was the perfect time for me to do it.
And you've never seen the Ultimate Cut?
Yeah, that too. I've never seen that. So,
well, we're gonna do it tonight. Austin, are you excited to sit through BVS again?
Yeah, and I feel like we have the exact amount of people to be like the main players of this movie. You and Jason, you have your shirts, you're Batman, Superman. John is obviously Lex, and I'm Wonder Woman.
I didn't know Wonder Woman was a Simpsons fan.
Yeah, she just doesn't talk about it much.
Oh, okay. So that's what she was doing all those years that she was in hiding and ostensibly not being a superhero. She was just watching The Simpsons.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's where she got the idea for cameos.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah. I guess you could do that until The Simpsons started, though.
Right.
You know, because she was in hiding for a few decades before that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just kind of sucked before that, but then she found The Simpsons and it was okay.
And then John is legitimately kind of a fan of this movie, right, John?
Yeah, I like this movie quite a bit.
So it will be a lot of fun going back and forth and picking John's brain and figuring out why he legitimately actually likes this movie, while the rest of us
I probably split the difference.
Enjoy it ironically, or have those things that we kind of like about it. Yeah, what do you mean when you say you split the difference, Austin?
Well, because you guys hate this movie. Well, I think this is easily the best Snyder DC film, but I also don't think it's very good.
Yeah, I mean, hate is a strong
but I think this
word.
At least entertaining.
I've always been just perplexed by it. I almost admire it in its complexity of bewilderment.
I agree.
And I spent 5 hours. I did I say I spent 5 hours. I have 5 hours of written content on this movie. I went nearly frame by frame, scene by scene. So I've broken down all the logical, confusing things and how literally nothing in this movie makes sense to me, practically. And so I'm not going to do a ton of that tonight. It's also been a long time, and it broke my brain. And so I'm wondering how much of that will come back to me. But we'll be...
Now you have to...
lighter about it this evening.
Did you do that with the theatrical cut?
No, I did that with this.
Oh no!
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of people feel like this version makes more sense. I did too until I started writing about it.
Yeah.
And there are those things that are, we're missing that it needs, but then it also just kind of created some new wrinkles. Mm-hmm. So I think it all kind of evens out in the wash. I don't know if ultimately the ultimate cut actually makes that much more sense than the original, but
I just remember thinking that it was just really dumb, especially just script wise. Like, just everything everyone says just isn't how people talk.
Well, we'll get into it. We got to start watching the movie. It's 3 hours. We got to get a move on here. We're going to read answers to questions again on Patreon like we did last night. And quick plug for that, if you would like to participate in this and have your thoughts read on camera, John's going to help me out with this tonight instead of Austin, because Austin is kind of getting over a cold, and we've got some long ones. So John's going to help out with that. and I'm going to read the ones on the Patreon side, so we'll just kind of go back and forth, John. We got a bunch more in the last couple of hours, so there's going to be more of those than I thought we were going to have. But anyway, patreon.com/geekvolution, just the $2 tier lets you participate in that. We're going to do these with every single one of these movies, and once again, we're going to have to double some of these up, so because we're only doing this in 2 weeks now instead of 3. So tomorrow night, we're going to be doing Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman both in one night, and Jason's going to be here for at least part of that as well. So join us tomorrow also. Quick plug. Let's go ahead and get into it. Everybody get ready to press play when I say now. You're going to want to skip, once again, past the HBO logo if you're watching this on Max, and DVD, Blu-ray, everybody else, timestamp 0. And we're gonna do it. Here we go. Everybody, please press play right now. It's a Mania. There are no rules. And that was a leaf. If you just saw a leaf, you were in sync
That was
with
a
me.
really entertaining
That's
leaf.
another leaf.
What does this movie think it is? Canadian?
Well, it's not that kind of leaf.
I don't know. The first one and the third one did look like maple leaves.
I didn't remember the line "Diamond Absolutes." And now it's time for the 6,000th Wayne death on screen.
Now, do you think that kid looks enough like Ben Affleck?
Sure. But not as much as the kid that played young Matt Murdock.
Oh, yeah.
He maybe got closer.
I really like their casting for Thomas Wayne, and I'm as much as I don't really care about Flashpoint, I'm sad we never got to see this guy actually play Flashpoint Batman in something.
Or at least get some screen time as that character, even if it wasn't Flashpoint Batman.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
And they're both on The Walking Dead and got a spin-off, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever watch that.
I have no interest.
I
think like everyone on Walking Dead is getting spin-offs at this point.
Yeah, they are, and it's a lot of like one-season miniseries. I think some of them are getting multiple seasons, but it's just preposterous how like that show finally ended, and then they just expanded to several shows at once. It's really counterintuitive for a franchise no one cares about anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was looking at a list of the spin-offs, and I was just shocked at some of them that happened. It looks like we do have a couple of super chats.
Yeah, I'll hit those.
Austin, did you want to? Oh, okay.
So Brady puts in a $10 super chat. Back in 2021, Zack Snyder came back to do a new remastered version of BVS that improved the color timing. I didn't realize that, and put back in the IMAX 65mm 143.1 scenes that he shot for in this version that you will see.
Here comes the necklace.
I actually have that version. I got the box set of the Snyder trilogy, Man of Steel, this, and the Snyder Cut, and it comes with that. They called it remastered, but that version of the movie.
Well, at least it wasn't yet another cut.
I mean, so I like this movie. I do think there is a third cut to be made of this movie that cuts out some of the stuff from this, and kind of a middle ground, because there's a couple of scenes that they put back that I don't know why they're here.
So, John, I'm just going to ask you outright, and I don't mean to pick on you, but I'm going to ask you a couple questions about your adoration for this film.
Real quick.
And yes,
The credits in this movie are really boring. Like, the font they chose is just nothing.
Yeah,
I don't know,
Snyder
it's
really
just like-
likes his minimal font.
Yeah.
It's very modern. It's very corporate looking. I don't actually mind it for the opening of this movie.
I don't know. I don't really have an opinion on the font.
I kind of like how
And
understated
this
it is.
is, if I'm remembering correctly, one of the first movies to have the proper crediting for Batman's creators.
Yes. Well, with
Bill
anyways.
Finger. I think it's the first one, isn't it?
Yeah. It is. Yeah, that's what John was saying.
So, John, my big question is, Yeah. Oh, yeah. Nolan still got an executive producer credit, but he definitely didn't actually work on this one.
I think he still does on Justice League, doesn't he?
Maybe so. I didn't remember. But yeah, I mean, he's working on Man of Steel at gunpoint, as we talked about last night, and I guess they finally let him out of his cage for this one. So, John, I gotta ask you, do you enjoy this movie despite its silliness, or do you disagree that it's very silly?
I think it can. I think it gets silly at points.
Do you think?
But
Do
I
you
like
think any
that.
of this opening is silly?
Yes.
Okay,
but
good.
I also like how heightened it is.
Sure.
Like my read on that's all in his head. That's how like he remembers it, but that's not what really happened.
It's Zack Snyder. I don't trust that.
Okay, I would not remember it like that.
Yeah.
Slow motion
that's
beams.
fair.
Why does he remember
But I-
the gun up against the necklace, though? It's so strange.
But I don't listen to what Snyder says because I don't care.
Yeah.
I read my own thoughts into the movie, and if it works for me, then that's good enough for me.
I mean, that's
Well,
fair.
already, like, I like this one more because it's willing to make weird choices like that. Man of Steel is such a nothing movie, and then the Snyder Cut is just an ad for a movie that doesn't exist. This is the full swing, baby.
I love this part. I think this is a great way to set up.
Well, that's the thing is, I don't know that the movie ever lives up to this opening. Like in some way, I don't know if it's my favorite part. I think it is kind of almost objectively the best part.
Well, the best part is when Batman bashes Superman over the head with a sink. But this definitely would be up there, I guess.
Well, it just does a great job establishing Bruce's motivation, and it right away, I think, in kind of a smart way, addresses the really fair and kind of obvious complaints about collateral damage in the last movie, and then it never lives up to that afterwards, where, like, at first it seems like it understands those criticisms, and then it's the rest of the movie, I feel like it's kind of confused about those criticisms, where it's like, people complain about this, so we're gonna make it about that, but we're gonna have whole new issues with that, and we're gonna have kind of like throwaway explanations for why people aren't in buildings, so that we can still do the same kind of insane damage that we did in Man of Steel, but just claim nobody got hurt this time. But then also just have Batman kill people willy-nilly. So you're right back in the thick of that.
Well, we also know that we're in Man of Steel because he just drove past a giant Dr. Pepper billboard.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and you're not going to have as much product placement in this movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And what is it with superhero movies and Dr. Pepper? Dr. Pepper is the big superhero movie product placement.
It's in a lot of superhero movies.
Mm-hmm. Particularly Spider-Man.
I think we should get a superhero movie that just is Dr. Pepper.
Like, as a superhero?
Yeah, Dr. Pepper.
I'd love that, yeah.
Or a villain. Dr. Pepper's a good villain name.
It is, yeah.
But John,
Dr. Pepper should just be in the MCU.
But
Dr.
John,
Pepper
John,
is...
to your point about the stylistic nature of this, there's the really baffling, bewildering, silly things, and then there's just the more comic booky things that I really appreciate. And so, like, I do like how much more stylistic and stylish this movie is. I like what this movie looks like a lot more than Man of Steel overall. And I'm a big fan of what Watchmen looks like, and it's that director of photography.
Why is there a horse?
And he's still not going to get on it.
Yeah.
You're still not going to have Batman on a horse. Sam Hamm was so sad when he saw this movie. There's a horse. He's going to get... Oh my God, he didn't get on it.
Yeah.
This also isn't as jarring of a, like, 9/11 imagery, shoving that into a superhero movie than Age of Ultron, where you have a comedy scene that then devolves into this. This is at least built around being dramatic.
No, yeah, that's true. When you've immediately got Bruce Wayne out of costume, saving people, we're put on such the right foot with him. and then it all kind of goes downhill from there to me. Because he's just so over the top in his assumption that, in the way he's got to take down Superman, it just gets so melodramatic. This feels like it's all going to start it's all going to go to a way more thoughtful place than it does, I guess is the point I'm making.
Yeah. I also really like Affleck in this movie. I don't like him after this movie. And I think part of that is a mix of just real life issues he was going through.
Yes.
I also think just after the reaction to this film, he was kind of done. But he's really good in this one.
Well, I've always wondered, that look is so good.
It's so good. Affleck is really good at the like angry Bruce Wayne expression, because he'll do that again in the shot where he's looking at the costume in the stand. And I think that's one of the best shots in the movie.
It's got the same problem Man of Steel does, where I kind of just wish characters would talk about more things, right? Like, instead of the whole, if there's a 1% chance business, he just went to Superman and was like, okay, you're acting like a despot. Like, do you actually care about human beings? Like, you stopped the big bad guy, but there's all these people that got hurt. And we make it so much about the grander ideas that we kind of forget the people involved. And then also the grander ideas are not as smart as the movie thinks they are. I want to go ahead and start reading some of these Patreon comments so that they don't get too far away from us. I'll start because I think Patreon's got more than Discord does. Chewbacca's Lover says he likes the warehouse fight like everyone else does. He's saying that's his favorite moment. He says what surprised him was how comic booky the Batman side of it was. Being right after Nolan, Batman training and laser and kryptonite in his Batcave felt really surreal and cool. And then his question is, have we ever had a bad Alfred? I think all of them have been great.
Yeah, I talk about that all the time. There really just is no bad cinematic Alfred. And I also find it really hard to pick a best Alfred, because they're all just really good. Although at this point I would say the greatest Alfred is the 43 serial.
He's great.
We
He's
just watched this guy in season 7 of Smallville.
Oh.
No, this was Cap's favorite character in that season.
Yeah, like, maybe Pennyworth, but even then I don't think that guy's bad.
Oh yeah, and that doesn't even register in my brain. I keep forgetting that exists.
I also forgot about it.
Though that Alfred is the only one to fight V from V for Vendetta and see London be nuked.
That's true. He has some distinctions, certainly.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, Jason, a lot of this footage is new. This whole thing goes on longer. And we've got a Jimmy Olsen that will get killed immediately.
Yep.
And there's KG Beast.
You always have to remind me that's who that's supposed to be. I never remember that.
Well, Starlin got paid more for this than he did the MCU.
Which is hilarious, because it doesn't even matter that that's who that is.
No, he's also just the same character he is in Winter Soldier, which is just Soldier Man.
Dan, what? How could you forget the origin of Batman's butler? The biggest travesty is that it wasn't called that from the start.
Mm-hmm.
They added that thinking somehow more people would watch it. I don't know that the word butler has ever sold anything well.
All right, we got a $5 super chat from Checkers.
Oh, thanks, Jason. Yeah.
Yeah. He says, great news. If you like this extended cut, Internet Archive now has the TV extended versions of the first 3 Superman movies. 3 hour Superman 3. Woohoo.
Oh my god, really?
Yes. If there's any movie I wanted to see extended, it's Superman 3.
What could they possibly have left out? Like, that is not a movie I'm watching going, boy, there's scenes missing.
Hopefully
seen that
more
movie.
scenes of Richard Pryor.
Yeah, probably so. Austin, are we going to do a blind watch party on that?
I guess.
I'm going to burn Austin out so hard. He's going to be like, I don't know why I do this anymore.
That's the only reason I'm sick, is just having to watch bad DC movies.
Dude, you were already sick before we started last night. Stop it.
Bye, Jimmy. Well, they also say Talon's down, so he might be a Court of the Owl, too.
So this is a situation where I don't feel like all of this necessarily needed to be put back in. Like, knowing what exactly Superman did here and why anybody would fault him for this is important, certainly, but none of this is gonna really impact the rest of the story.
No, that's what I was saying. Is I think there is a third cut where you could trim out some of this stuff. The main thing you need from this is just the scene where they're burning the bodies to explain why people think Superman did
That's
this.
all that really matters. You don't really need to.
But they also didn't fix it with that, because they pile the bodies before they burn them. Because that was the big talking point when this came out, was, oh, it makes more sense now. They didn't just shoot them and they blame it on Superman. They burn them. But they pile the bodies first, which makes, like, as much sense as it did originally.
I mean, I guess Superman could
I
have
don't know,
piled
that
the
works.
bodies, but
You know, why would that immediately prove it wasn't Superman?
Why would Superman pile the bodies before burning them? You can also, like, figure out pretty easily that this is a gasoline fire. Like, I would think that there are
But to
different...
be fair, this is only part of it because they also have that eyewitness that lies.
But they also still have the scene that they're witnessing. Like, why would Superman pile these bodies? He just flew in and killed all of them. Why are they piled?
Why wouldn't he? I mean, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I don't think it's that important. Like, they found these bodies burnt and they have an eyewitness that says he did it.
They're burned. They still would have bullet holes in them. Like, you would still be able to find the bullets in them. Like, they still didn't think any of this through. Like,
so Austin, do you think it's a leap that people would even suspect Superman at all, or that there would just be more of a debate about it?
no, I just think that because this whole thing's blamed on Superman, which is fine. Like, we need a reason to do it. I just think it's silly that people went, oh, it's no longer a reach because they burned the body, but it still doesn't actually make
look at
sense to
Superman.
put any thought into it.
Well, and
So it's more so that.
what's always been more irritating about it for me, Austin, is I don't want it to feel like there might be a reason to suspect Superman. Like, I want there to not feel like there's any kind of precedent or anything. Like the collateral damage notwithstanding, like there's an argument there of this guy's not being very careful when he's fighting the big bad guys. But once again, he just seems so cut off from humanity, and we can't tell what he really stands for. That there's too much of a reason for people to actually not trust him, and I can't tell if the movie knows that. That's what's always
Well, I'm
been so
fine with
awkward
them.
about it to me.
I'm fine with them trying to frame Superman.
Yeah.
'cause, like, it's Lex Luthor. Like, that makes sense. It's just, like, they see this and they're like, oh yeah, Superman did this, I guess. But I just don't think that makes any sense.
Right, and I'm with you on that. But just
And not only that, but would their bodies be, like, crispy like that? Like, we saw their heat vision plow through buildings. Like, they'd be obliterated. Like there are forensics that I would think that you could do that could easily prove that.
Well, it's
This isn't
contrived
Superman.
again, like the tornado thing.
That's all I'm saying. Like, it's just
it's not
there's
as
18
contrived
levels
as
of
the tornado
contrivance on
thing,
top of this.
but it's pretty darn close.
Because the only thing they have, like John says, is that Lex Luthor pays off this woman to lie about it. There's also other people there, and I guess you can say, well, Lex paid them off too. But like I said, like basic forensics would prove that this is incorrect.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a minute since I watched this. But doesn't Lois Lane have to sneak out one of the bullets to get proper forensics done? Like, there's like multiple cover-ups involved with this whole thing.
Well, her whole thing is that one of the bullets hits her book, and then she's like, "Oh, Superman didn't do this," but we don't really delve into that, like in terms of whether he paid them off, because she goes straight to the military, and they're happy to help her.
No, I've said for a while, I think, like, Snyder's not a perfect director. I like his stuff before he started doing these Netflix movies. I think for this you needed a better writer than Goyer.
When he gets kicked off of this,
Yeah.
it's
But
Terrio.
from what I remember, Terrio is just touching up his script that's already there. It's not. So it's still like a Goyer script. It's just touched up. Because Terrio, I think, starts from scratch with the Snyder Cut, and that's a much simpler story. It's not trying to do as much. And I think if you had started with Terrio, this might have been a simpler BVS movie.
Maybe. Goyer's also just a writer that depends on his director.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I meant. Is just because like he's really good with like Nolan, but I think him and Snyder paired up aren't a good duo, because they kind of bring out the worst in each other.
No, and Goyer is starting from a place he's kind of forced to start in a place he doesn't want to be in the first place.
Yeah, and you have that too. I really like this sequence. I think when we actually see Batman, it's really silly.
Just 20 minutes
because
in. And this police officer is named Rucka, by the way. 20 minutes in, I'm appreciating maybe more than I ever have before that there's too much Watchmen in this movie. Like we've got a billboard already that said the end is nigh, and we're talking about Superman very Dr. Manhattan-like. And once again, I just can't tell what the movie thinks Superman is versus the public perception right now. Like, if the idea is he's misunderstood and he doesn't know how to, present himself to the world, and he's got to kind of prove himself through the course of the movie, that's one thing. But that whole thing is very muddled and confusing to me. And I don't think Snyder totally knows what it is. I think he's just doing whatever he thinks looks and feels cool and badass in the moment.
So this is just one of my favorite images in this movie, which is Batman up like this in the corner, like the Grinch in the live-action Grinch movie when we first reveal him in that like present wrapping scene where he's in a disguise. It's like a very similar shot, and then the cop sees him, and then he like crawls up into the ceiling. It's so goofy.
Oh, and Jason, this version is rated R, which is the reason that when I showed it to you a few years ago when you were younger, I showed you the theatrical version.
I see.
So you've got some rougher violence, and you've got some F-bombs. And
Okay.
Yeah, see, there he is. And now he's just like crawling around.
Oh wow, he was on the ceiling.
And it's fun how he's still kind of got that urban legend feel, even though like he's been around for a long time and everybody knows for sure that he exists. But he's still very mysterious, and it's hard to get a glimpse of him. I like that.
Which is weird with Justice League, because I think Justice League establishes that Gordon was working with him at one point.
Yeah, Gordon feels very strange in that movie when you get to him.
Oh yeah, good call. Because the police don't know what to
I
make
like
of
the
him
Snyder cut, but
now,
it feels
and
like
he's
they're
middle
trying to
aged.
course correct a little bit.
I'm sorry, what was that, John?
Oh, and
Sorry,
Oh,
Austin, what were you gonna say?
no, I was just gonna reply to that, but Captain didn't hear you, so I'll let you
I just
repeat
didn't hear
it.
what he said.
That I like the Snyder cut, but some of that does feel kind of retroactive, especially with Batman.
Mhm.
I wish we'd gotten that solo Ben Affleck Batman movie at some point just to see like what that looked like. But
When WB definitely course corrected after this movie.
yeah,
We have a $2 super chat from Senior Sticks. Who is Geekvolution saving this time?
What?
Who's gonna save
Geekvolution
us?
saving?
Who are we saving?
Yeah, who are we saving?
Martha, I guess.
Why'd you say that?
Oh. Cap,
We're
do you remember
saving-
Say that again.
how?
We're saving a bag of flowers. That's overkill.
Do you remember how mad
That's overkill
that,
flowers.
Yeah.
Do you remember how mad Cap the kids were in that kids review site about this scene?
Oh yeah, they just went on and on about naked Lois Lane and
About how it's like drastic, like awful nudity.
yeah, we did a video once where we read kid reviews of this movie.
Yeah, it's
and
one
that
of my
just
favorite
kept
Geekvolution videos.
coming up. We haven't done one of those in a long time, Austin.
That's also where we got him Carrie.
Oh yeah, him Carrie. I also sometimes feel like Clark and Superman are feel like different people in the wrong way in this.
Those
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think because I am like a little fuzzy from being sick. But is this our first real scene with Clark Kent? Like
Yeah.
in Superman? I know he plowed through the terrorist earlier.
Yeah,
This is like our first real scene with him, right?
Mhm.
yeah.
That is strange.
And I have a little bit of a hard
Especially because
time-
he's also not talking.
Yeah, because he's still so monosyllabic. But I sometimes have a hard time buying that this is the same guy as Superman in the suit. And Lois knows who he is. It's like, why is he so different? I mean, I guess he's just... Again, it's just like presenting himself as unto a god to everyone. And it's such a strange choice.
Well, and Superman in this movie has less lines than Spider-Man in Civil War.
And he's not exaggerating. That's not a euphemism. That's true.
No, that wasn't a joke. That's like an actual. You can look that up. And it's very weird because he's one of the protagonists of this movie. Though this movie is way more a Batman movie than it is a Superman movie.
Yeah, and I kind of like the idea of keeping it more from Batman's perspective. If I trusted and liked the Superman more, and because again, my main complaint is just I don't. Besides all the story stuff that doesn't make sense, is that I just don't understand that character, and I don't know if the movie does either. But Batman, I like misunderstanding Superman, or Superman being so new to this, he's kind of lost himself a little bit in his powers and what he feels like his role is. That he's got to kind of find his humanity again. I like the idea that he's in the background and he feels larger than life, and then eventually, when Batman and Superman come together, Superman kind of would become a person for the audience. That's the structure it ought to take.
See, I think that, but reversed. I think this should 100% be Superman's movie as he's investigating Batman,
Oh, sure.
and
I think either
trying to
could work, but I'm just kind of going with what the movie is doing and going, okay, if they want it to be Batman first, that's how you get there. But I'm with you. This being a sequel to a Superman movie already, it is weird to do it that way.
But not only that, but even just with what's here, like with just how much of this Batman is a mystery, like
Yeah.
finding out that Robin was killed would be better if it's Superman finding that out as
Yeah.
opposed to just having him looking at the suit at one point. Like, I just think that would have made for a better movie. On top of like you said, this is a Superman sequel.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm always trying to take the thing on its own terms, and I don't totally know how to do that with a thing like this.
No, and I am too. I'm just saying, like, even with what's here, I think the movie kind of desperately needs that. And this cut has a little bit more of that, where you see Bruce or Clark Kent investigating Batman, but it
Yeah.
kind of doesn't really go anywhere.
Well, I guess the point I'm trying to make is it initially feels like Batman's supposed to be our eyes in, even though we had Superman in the previous movie. But then you have those scenes where we do cut to Clark. So it's not fully committing to that either. Chewbacca's Lover, $2 super chat. Should Lauren Cohen have been Lois like some think? Who is that?
That name sounds familiar. I'm trying to think. Let me look her up. Lauren.
I just don't know that actress right off.
Oh, that's that. If I've got her name right, that was Martha Wayne in this. That's
Oh,
Maggie
okay.
in The Walking Dead.
I don't know if I know
Oh,
her
okay.
from anything.
Yeah, she's Maggie in The Walking Dead.
Oh, is that who that is?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I could see it then. Now I know who we're talking about. Yeah, I could kind of see that. But I had not heard people talking about that. So you never thought we would introduce Lex Luthor wearing a ape T-shirt, but
So I was really excited when he was cast initially, because I had just seen The Social Network, and like that's not the exact performance I would have wanted, but like I could see him getting to a Lex Luthor place, from that. I like this movie. This is my least favorite part of this movie.
He's
Why?
a lot of the reason why I disliked this movie originally.
I just think it's interesting that we have a Lex that's based on, like the original Lex, and is very, James Bondy in Donner, and then obviously in the comics you get the Lex that we kind of all think of with post Crisis, and then in the 2000s we get a Lex that is throwing back to Donner, so we also don't do the Lex that we all think of. And then you get this movie, which is a very postmodern Lex. I just think it's interesting that we've never seen what we see as modern Lex in a movie before.
and it's pretty clear we're finally going to get that.
Hmm.
Because that's
For sure.
like exactly.
I just
what
think that's kind of
Gunn is
fascinating
doing.
that we
No,
kind
it's
of
weird
skipped
that we-
over that.
It's weird that we leapt immediately to like the Facebook lags, like the social network lags.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I mean, the only place we get anything resembling that is TV with Smallville and.
So the bombastic nature of the score there is where in the theater the movie had already lost me, where I was like, "What am I watching?" Like just the
It already
just
what?
the-
Sorry, you cut out a bit.
just the music when he walks in and you get the crazy bombastic music and it's like bottom, and I'm like, what am I watching?
Yeah, this is a really out there Zimmer score.
Yeah, I kind of like it for how out there it is, though.
I mean, I love those moments, but I don't know if you could have made it fully cohesive with something. Like it's always kind of taken me out. It's so weird.
I mean, John, this whole movie is just out there. Like,
So this is just a movie thing. Like, this isn't really a complaint, but it always makes me laugh how we cut from that to Cavill flipping plastic eggs in a frying pan.
Those are like really obvious.
They're like really obvious plastic eggs.
Oh, I meant to bring this up, but earlier when we were in the Batcave, this was a while ago, but I don't understand how Bruce's computer works, because there's a shot where he's like zooming in on pictures, but it makes the other pictures zoom out, and then it's like, why does your computer do that? Like, it makes another random picture on his computer zoom out when he zooms in on another picture, and then it's like, what?
You know, I did a 5-hour written review of this movie, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the few things I did not mention or ever think about. Tobin Pelpon's $1.99 super chat. This movie sucks.
Tell us how you really feel, Tobin.
I remember when this movie was coming out, and they were like doing the press for it and everything, and it came out. I believe that this guy's name was supposed to be Wally, and there was a lot of speculation if that was supposed to be a Flash reference.
Okay, great.
Because I remember people talking about that, but I couldn't remember if that was legitimately a fan theory or if that was just people making fun of the Jimmy Olsen thing. Okay.
I don't know. I don't know which. That's just something I remember hearing.
Yeah,
It's
I remember
crazy that
too.
it's been almost 10 years since this movie came out.
I remember too. They were like, "Oh, what is her name? Jenna Malone, I think, the actress. She's in this cut.
There was a lot of speculation she was.
She was going to be Barbara Gordon. She's a redhead, and then you get to this cut, and she's
Just
some person.
yeah.
That, and I remember they were like, "Oh, here's some things that are different." I saw an article that was like, "Oh, and there's a scene with Jon Stewart," and I was like, "Whoa, Jon Stewart's in this movie," and then I watched it, and it's media commentator Jon Stewart.
Yep.
No,
So, yeah, they maybe should have put like in brackets, not that Jon Stewart.
You're making a DC thing, and it's DCEU, and you're introducing Justice League characters. And even though we didn't get it, people were kind of expecting Green Lantern in Justice League.
Yeah.
I think he was supposed to be too.
That's what I
And then
remember
WB
reading
said
originally,
no.
because the whole Unite the Seven thing. I swear the explanation later for what that was, I've never bought. I think there were supposed to be 7 Justice League members, and I think.
So
Green
you're
Lantern
cutting out a
was-
bit on our
was one of
end,
them.
Cap.
Okay, I'll drop out of Discord and come back in then. I'm so sick of Discord. I'm just done with it. It's driving me crazy.
Yeah, this is the stuff they put back in that this movie really needs, where it's just Clark being a journalist and like investigating stuff.
Yeah, this is what I think the movie should be: is Clark Kent investigating the Bat.
Yeah. And this is another thing that is silly, but I like it when he's scratching the lottery ticket and it's the Bat logo.
Yeah, I agree. That is silly in a because it's cool kind of way.
Oh, that's what Dad would draw on that.
Well, I guess you also kind of needed that scene put back. This is a place where that was an important scene that's missing, because Clark is set up to legitimately believe that Batman is nothing but bad, and we don't see how he gets there.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I
And
don't
that
like
was-
I don't like all the macho one-liners with it. The Bat is dead and all of that nonsense. And again, that's where I feel like you've got kind of two different characters here. But having him investigate and go actually talk to people that have dealt with Batman, I don't know. There's kind of a cool story embedded in this that we don't really get, that we don't really explore, about like perception and people just believing what they hear and see without actually, like judging books by their covers and that kind of thing. Where like they both have an impression of each other that is incorrect, and then when they actually come together, they realize that there's two sides to every story. There's more to it, and they have more in common than what separates them. That's what it should have been.
Lawrence Fishburne is so good in this movie.
Yeah, except I don't understand why he thinks nobody would want to read the story Clark is working on. I don't understand that. He's like, no, go work on sports. No, nobody wants you to take down this vigilante that has been in Gotham for years that everyone is horribly afraid of, and that you have actual information about. No one wants to read about that. What are you talking about?
Who cares about that if the Knicks might make it to the Super Bowl, Cap? Someone's got to write sports. Steve Lombard didn't come back for this movie.
And then that's true. And then when Perry says nobody buys papers anyway, Clark's response should be, then why do you care what I write about? Why do you care? You've already thrown your hands in the air. Coach is funny. We have no money. Draven G. So, Cap, what bothers you more, Smallville and Metropolis being next to each other, or Gotham and Metropolis being next to each other? Well, at least in this, we're not... I mean, it's only, movie length, but at least we're not constantly inconsistent about how long it takes to get from one end to the other. Or are we?
I'm not sure.
I don't think they ever really established...
Yeah, I don't think they ever established that.
Yeah, I've never cared that Gotham and Metropolis were just across the body of water. Like, if that bothers you, that's whatever. I don't care.
I guess it does.
I just wish they looked more visually different. That's my thing more so than them being across the lake.
Well, it gets back to the conversation that Austin and I had last night about how some of this works better when you look at it more as like an Elseworlds kind of like alternative story, as like alternative DC universe as opposed to definitive, because I don't want my definitive Metropolis and Gotham right next to each other, but in a world where Lois gets to learn who Clark is before she knows he's Superman, I guess or knows that in the first place, I guess I'm okay with it. But in a perfect world where this feels more definitive, that would certainly bother me more than Metropolis and Smallville being close together. But like, I don't like that either. I don't like either of these things.
Yeah, Austin, I agree with you about Metropolis. Like, I would like a more stylized. That is definitely the Nolan influence, right? Where we just have to make it look like a city.
Mm-hmm. When I feel like Gotham in this is a little bit more stylized than Nolan, it's just I don't think they're different enough where I'm ever like, oh, well, that's Gotham. Oh, that's Metropolis.
I think the problem is that, at least with Gotham, we only see the rundown parts. Because like he doesn't live in Wayne Manor. It's ruined. Even Wayne Enterprises is in Metropolis.
Yeah, it's across the bay.
Yeah, I guess that's okay when you're Twin Cities, when you're just Minnesota now.
Well, because Cap likes to make fun of like the establishing shots in this. I think having them so close to each other and getting that side of Gotham, it just makes it feel like you're just in the same city the whole time. And Gotham's just the rundown section of the city.
Gotham is the Narrows?
Yeah, exactly. It's the Narrows.
Brady put in a $10 super chat and says, Goyer left the project in 2013 and Terrio came on after to do a rewrite that changed a lot of the narrative. I was going to say, I thought Terrio had a lot more to do with this than John was letting on. Superman's death was not in Goyer's script because Terrio wrote Justice League in 2014 with Snyder.
It's just been so long, it's hard to remember some of this stuff.
Yeah, I remember reading an interview with Terrio talking about there was stuff that he wasn't allowed to change and stuff, but I could be wrong. It's been a minute since I've looked into it.
Well, I'm sure some of that is also just WB wanted certain things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing to keep in mind is the regime at the time is the same regime that watched Man of Steel and was like, you can't blow up the escape pods at the end. How will Superman get home?
Yep. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Surprise Man-Bat cameo.
He's like half Man-Bat and half the like gross vomiting Scarecrow Batman and Begins.
Well, and
It's like the two of them had a baby.
This happens with so many movies where you end up with a like Frankenstein monster out of multiple scripts, and that's how you end up with such an overly complicated story with way too many subplots. And I mean, this is a whole new level of bewilderment. With like a lot of things just scene to scene where I have no idea what's happening, and I don't understand why people are doing things they're doing, and where characters seem to be contradicting things they're saying in the same scene. But some of that comes from like adding stuff to a thing that's there already. That, to Austin's point, you're already stuck with, and then trying to put your own spin on it and do your own thing with it. And so you want to add to what's there already and like improve an existing narrative instead of writing your own narrative. And this is what I think Terrio might have kind of done. Like you're coming up with your own story that you're forced to kind of like graft onto what was there already.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really judge Terrio's writing based on just the few projects that I've seen him do. But I look at like the Snyder Cut, which is solely his script from what I remember. Like he's the main credited writer on that versus this, which is him and Goyer. And I see a lot of Goyer in this movie that we got, at least in my opinion. Whereas I think the Snyder Cut is at least more consistent and simple and like
I agree with
what
that.
it wants to do and it just gets done.
I agree with that. But I don't know how much of that you can.
These are so
on...
micromanaged too, like by the studio. Yeah. It's like 'cause he's also the writer for Rise of Skywalker. Like I feel like if you want to judge Terrio as a writer, you look at something like Argo, because he does that with Affleck, which is why Affleck brings him onto this.
Yeah.
And I would say that's probably a much more pure like show of his talents than any of those other three movies I said. There's Batman ass for no reason.
I was gonna say you got your Batman damned moment there.
If only it was like the full Batman damned, and they had to like quickly run out to grab every Blu-ray copy to delete it.
And then those of us that got it in the first place, like hold on to it for dear life and cherish it because there's so few of them. I got the one with the Batman ass, you guys. Aren't I special?
I don't know why, but so around when this was coming out, like as part of the marketing, they released a clip of this where they redid it. I think it was for like Jimmy Kimmel maybe, and they made it like more comedic, and they brought in what's his face, Lego Batman pops up in it. And Ben Affleck's like, no one effing cares about Lego Batman. And that just lives rent free in my head because it was so cocky. And then this movie had the reaction that it did.
That's amazing.
Oh, Will Arnett. Thank you, Dan Stead.
Will Arnett, yeah.
I love Will Arnett, too. I can't believe I blanked on his name.
Well, and there's a direct-to-video Lego Batman movie that feels like a parody of this before this comes out, and it's amazing. And that I was able
same with that Brave and the Bold episode we watched.
Yeah. And I was able to confirm that they definitely were working on that before this movie was even, the script was even finalized or together. And I couldn't believe that. And then, of course, once you get the Lego Batman movie, this existed already. Although I think that was just like a year after this. But there is like a couple of references to it.
Oh, water just shot up my nose.
Don't you hate it when that happens?
I do.
Hey, John, read a comment or two, man.
Okay, I was just about to ask you if you want me to.
Yeah, we're already 48 minutes in. We should probably get to some of these.
Okay, so this is from When Pigs Fly in the Discord. The best scene is the Batman warehouse fight. And then he says, I think the third act needs a complete rework. I would have Doomsday not in the film at all. Save him for another Superman movie. No Death of Superman. It's too early. The Martian Manhunter should join the fight at the end with Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman, as it may demonstrate to the world that aliens are not all bad. I think the idea of the public being against Superman is the key to the whole movie, so replace Doomsday with Wallace Keefe, as he would have become the DCEU's Metallo. That way Luthor could be working on him instead of Doomsday. The world would then be saved by the beginnings of the Justice League, which would be expanded in later films. So I'm a fan of this movie. Shockingly, despite its apparent flaws, I still enjoy it. Maybe it's because I was 12 when this movie came out, so I was the perfect age for it. But I always found the Justice League hard drive scene so out of place and unnecessary. And then, question for the stream. Was Batfleck the right choice for this universe? I personally enjoy him in these movies, but it seems weird that he has all this undefined history that we'll never see. I feel that if it was a younger Batman, maybe 5 years in, we would have got a few solo films with him and got to see the beginnings of a Bat family.
It is really counterintuitive that you started with such an older Batman when you're trying to build a shared universe. But then it gets even crazier later on when they try to build more movies around Keaton,
Around Michael Keaton,
who was almost 70.
So this might be my bias because Affleck is one of my favorite on-screen Batman. He's been Pattinson is my number one at this point. But I like Affleck in this movie and as Batman a lot. So I think he was the right choice. It's just easier to ask that in hindsight because we never got that solo movie to kind of flesh out his side. If they had already had it planned out and that movie had happened, I think it would have worked more.
Yeah, I think it's also just differences in what everyone wanted. Like,
Yeah.
Snyder just wanted to do like this 5-film thing, and the studio was like, "We want our MCU." So I don't even necessarily think Snyder's thinking about it like that. Which, I mean, to his credit, like, I don't think is an issue. Like, he just wants to tell his story, but I don't know. I guess you could have made it work.
I also would have been fine, like, and Austin, I know you probably would have hated this. I would have been fine if at some point you do Dick inheriting the mantle, at least for a while. And then do the Morrison Batman and Robin, where it's Dick Grayson as Batman and bring in Damian as Robin.
Well, and you had,
And
I
I'll-
guess, opportunities for different people in mantles, given that I think all three of the Trinity were supposed to die at some point.
Yeah, but which plan was that, Cap? Because their plans changed like 600
Yeah,
times.
no, I know. And it's been a
Remember
long
when
time since I
the new
read that,
Trinity
but
was supposed to be Supergirl, Wonder Woman, and Batgirl.
Batgirl, yeah.
Oh, I forgot
the
about that.
Mobverse. Yeah.
it's been a while since I read that insane whiteboard that Snyder had with all of his later Justice League plans that just degenerated into absolute insanity.
So I was talking over it, but I really like that scene where he's down, like, trying to get into Lex Luthor's computers, and he's caught, and he kind of just instantly shifts into the Bruce Wayne persona. And
Yeah.
the minute she leaves, he's back to who he really is. I really like that little moment.
He's very
Yeah, he plays
charismatic.
that scene well. It's weird that she just lets him stay.
It is.
She's not like, okay, well, get out. But the way he plays it is cool, yeah.
Yeah, and the Clark and Bruce scene is maybe one of the better written scenes.
I agree. I think Bruce gets a little out of character by the end of it. but I was gonna say that that confrontation is maybe my favorite scene so far.
Like, the innuendo in it is good, if not, like a little obvious, but I don't think either of them knows who the other one is yet. So it's still not counting as they're getting enough time to talk to each other and feel each other out for me because they don't know who they're talking to yet. So, like, I need more of that later. It's a good start to it. But,
No,
like,
my
it
big
also-
question in that scene is, how does Lex Luthor already know who they are?
Because he's Lex Luthor.
yeah, and my
he's
brain's
a
gonna explode
genius,
if I try to
guess.
if I try to pull that plot out.
But if they
again,
don't know
but-
who each other are, it makes that scene funnier because Lex is like, "Oh my god, I've been meaning to introduce you to,"
Yes, and
Bruce
why?
Wayne's probably just like, just this random reporter. Nobody reads newspapers.
Well, I was going to say earlier when you guys were talking about Eisenberg's performance, I'm much less annoyed about, and again, it's counterintuitive, it's strange. I'm much less annoyed at the general take on Lex, and the performance he goes with, and like the antisocial kind of ADHD thing, and more just the villain plot. More just that you have to have a master manipulation plot from Lex to make these two characters fight. Like that's when a movie that is really self-serious and trying to make me think that it's supposed to be like massively thought-provoking and is like supposed to be blowing my mind with philosophy just degenerates into children playing with action figures.
Oh, sorry, I was about to sneeze and it was like coming along and then it didn't. I'm like, I'm trying to respond to you, but I'm about to sneeze.
And I'm not saying that
Okay,
Lex can't have a manipulation plot. I'm not saying that Lex shouldn't have, some kind of like grand vision and thing he's doing behind the scenes and moving around chess pieces. I just don't want the whole thing to be about him just making these two characters fight.
Well, that's what I was going to say is the issue with that is that we spend so much time building up the ideological difference between these two characters, and now they're going to go at loggerheads.
Yeah.
And then instead of doing that, Lex just goes, okay, you're going to fight now.
Brady, $10 super chat. Snyder Cut is a more simple plot because Warner Brothers made Terrio and Snyder do a rewrite in April before the filming of Justice League. After BVS's reception, Terrio and Snyder have said they never shot their original Justice League script.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, or what I meant when I was saying earlier. WB was definitely course correcting after this.
Yeah.
That isn't the movie they would have made directly after this one.
And I think a lot of people look at that movie as like Snyder's pure vision because we didn't think we would ever see that movie, and because what Whedon did to it is just a completely different movie, and is so gutted that I think a lot of people probably don't even, including some Snyder fans, probably don't even realize how compromised it is in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did forget about that.
And
I
I'm
mean,
glad.
I like the Snyder
I-
Cut, but I'm glad that
I am glad it came out.
Yeah.
When you have a drastic change to a Suicide Squad, where Steppenwolf was supposed to be like the villain at the end of that movie, and then they changed it. It's like they were constantly shifting with these.
Writer skipping straight to Batman v Superman before the characters ever met is crazy. I don't think it's a problem that they meet in this movie, given that's the story we're wanting to tell. Is
Yeah, I don't think that's an issue.
these two characters are at opposite ends of a worldview, and they don't trust each other, and what happens when matter meets antimatter. I never liked the V in Batman v Superman, of course. Like the idea that it has to be all about what if these characters, finally got the fight, because the playground argument with that when I was growing up, I always thought was really, really dumb, and I didn't need that to be the whole point of the thing. You can start with that, but then I want World's Finest. Like, I don't want the whole, and you could have made a better movie and told a better story out of that idea than what we got, certainly. I didn't want it to start with that, but you did need a movie in between. You like I would have really liked a Man of Steel 2 before we brought Batman into the thing. Or at least let Batman have his own movie first and introduce us to this version of that character. Either one of those.
You have something similar in Burn. I think so, but it's been so long, I don't remember for sure. Like, it might also be a Snyder cut thing, like with Justice League, where this also wouldn't have been the movie that Snyder made next.
Because from memory, and like Austin said, it's been a while. Snyder originally just wanted to do Man of Steel 2, but then Warner Brothers got the big, cinematic universe bug. It was like, no, put Batman in it. I don't personally have a problem with the second movie being the big, like, Batman Superman movie, and I don't even mind it being about them fighting, and then at the end they reconcile their differences, and that leads into a greater DC universe. It's just this movie's trying to do too much. There's that like 5-10 minute email scene that doesn't need to be here. I like this movie a lot. I would change like the entire third act, get rid of Doomsday, save that for later.
So you agree?
It becomes too unfocused. It becomes too unfocused after the Batman Superman fight.
Mm-hmm. No, and I mean Byrne does a similar thing, where it's the third issue of the Man of Steel mini.
That's such a good issue.
It's a great issue, yeah. I have no issue with this being the sequel if it was done well. And
my favorite thing in that issue, Austin, is when Batman's like, "I'm gonna blow up a citizen if you try to arrest me."
That's what this movie needs. Is he just pulls out a trigger and he's like, "I have this bomb, and if you get me, it'll blow someone up." That and the villain of this movie should be Magpie. God damn it! Because that's the only villain that is worthy of Batman and Superman teaming up to beat them.
Perry, I still don't understand why you don't want him to work on the story.
That feels like it is just here so that they could put it in the trailer later, which is what they did.
Yeah.
Look, it's Jon Stewart.
It's Jon Stewart. Well, and my favorite Green Lantern. Well, and I like the 1938 thing. But like, just in this context, again, earlier he said nobody buys papers anymore. What is his motivation for trying to keep Batman Clark off that case? I don't understand it.
I like the idea of Perry kind of becoming cynical and thinking, oh, nobody actually cares about this. They buy the paper for, sports or like celebrity gossip. And Clark proving him wrong, but you're right, it is a little unfocused.
It's because it's in the script.
I wish it would have been more about that.
Let me read a couple comments here. Professor Zoom says, "Sorry, Cat, but I disagree. How dare you? While the performance was different, this Lex is very comic accurate, and we finally received an interesting comic book plot for him, and not a stupid real estate scam again." I mean, yeah, I like that it's more comic booky and that he's doing some kind of broadly traditional Lex things, like, you get Lex with kryptonite and fun things like that. And he's cloning a Kryptonian, which is a very Lex Luthor thing to do. But it's just how convoluted the whole plot is. Like, I can't track it. It doesn't. It's not very cohesive or coherent. And then I don't get what exactly he's trying to prove in having Superman kill Batman, which is what John Kelling says. He says, "What does Lex gain by forcing Superman to kill Batman? That Superman can murder. We already saw that in Man of Steel. And what was his motivation for Batman? What did he expect Batman to do without kryptonite? yeah, that was a lot of it for me. Is it just, again, it feels like a really contrived way just to make that fight happen. And the thing is, Batman doesn't need the push from Lex. It already made sense that he would go after him from the start. Why do you need the manipulation?
No, I feel like what it should be is Lex is doing things, and neither Batman or Superman are paying attention because they're going at loggerheads with each other based on their ideological differences. And because of that, Lex's plan gets farther with whatever he's doing is scientific machinations that create doomsday in this, but it could be something else. Doesn't have to be that.
Well, that comment that I read suggested Metallo, which wouldn't have been, I don't think would have been a bad idea.
No, he's already got kryptonite.
Lex in the green suit would have been fine. That's what I would have preferred.
He should have made the Ultra Humanite. This movie should have ended with a giant ape man because he was wearing a
He was wearing that
shirt
ape
in his
shirt.
first scene. Exactly, it's set up and payoff. He makes Titano.
Cap, did you want me to go ahead and read another Discord one, or
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. We've got one from the Captain Kwan. I don't know how to pronounce the last part of your name. Sorry.
Oh, Captain Coon, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. His favorite moment is when Batman jumps from the Batwing into the warehouse. It looks really cool. Things I would change. Too numerous to list is the only thing that's good is the cast for the most part. And the most surprising thing for him was stopping the whole movie for a jar of pee. See, I think this is a far worse thing to stop the movie for. Because I don't understand what's happening.
Well, you see, John, we are an hour in and there's been no action, so we need to have action, but
Okay,
it's not time in the story to have action yet.
Well, it feels like we've
So Mad Max.
interrupted an Elseworld story with an even more Elseworld story.
I have a question. Why is it like 4-3 though?
And I actually like this Batman look with like the trench coat over the suit. I think it looks kind of cool.
It looks
don't-
like a
I'm-
2000s
I-
YouTube video. Why is it in a 4-3 aspect ratio?
So
Oh, mine
so-
didn't.
I don't know if you know this, but Justice League does that.
Does it really?
Yeah, so the Snyder Cut is in 4:3, and the only thing I can figure, and I don't know if this is true, the only thing I can figure is that because I don't think it did this originally. I think this is just on Max.
Well, Cap, if your aspect ratio is changing, that's the new version that you got a super chat about.
Yeah.
Where it restores the original IMAX. That's
That-
why it's doing
That's
that.
what I was gonna say. Oh, it restored the IMAX. Okay, so I was gonna say, so it's just because of IMAX. I was gonna overthink this and say maybe retroactively they did that because this is all building to things that the Justice League movies were supposed to do, and so now it's supposed to look like those, but I guess not.
But John, I agree. I also think this bat suit is neat.
Yeah.
I
it
like
too.
this coat. I like his coat.
But yeah, we're
It's
supposed
like
to be looking at
silly, edgy in the correct way.
we're supposed to be looking at
The
flashes of the
aspect in
future.
general is my
Yeah.
And
favorite,
what
like,
we're-
cinematic Batman
What we'd
suit.
be building to.
For some reason, I don't know why.
Well, because we basically have Injustice Superman here, and
And this is just an excuse for Snyder to have Batman with guns.
Oh yeah.
Well, and then
He's not really.
I have to
using them like
imagine
that.
for
Well,
the uninitiated, this is like the most confusing thing, not just for this, but in a second, parademons are going to start flying down.
yep, there they are.
And I have to imagine if you're just a regular person, this is completely incomprehensible. Like, what is happening? Like, we all get it. We know what's happening.
Sort
but
of. I mean,
to a degree.
it's pretty incomprehensible anyway. Because just because I know what parademons are, doesn't mean I understand what I'm looking at here. It's like you
Yeah.
got all these soldiers with a Superman symbol on them, so I guess Superman's an evil dictator. Like you can piece some of that together, but why does he have parademons?
Well, because well, I mean, I guess we'll find out later, I guess. This is like the Superman's brainwashed by Darkseid, but we don't know that yet.
And I still don't understand if this is the Flash showing him this. Is he actually seeing this?
Well, he was too late.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the idea is he's supposed to go back and warn Bruce, but yeah, too late for what?
Well, and people
Well, and this is
debated-
also a dream. Like all of this is very confusing.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
muddled.
people debated really hard about whether this was a dream or an actual vision of the future. But the fact that Flash goes there, like obviously it's not just something that Bruce's subconscious is doing. Like there are premonitions, like actual premonitions here happening. That's indisputable. Especially
See, I think with a
given
couple
that
of
he's
tweaks,
seeing
you could-
parademons.
I think with a couple of tweaks, you could have fixed this to be where this is like Bruce's worst fear of what Superman is. Just get rid of the parademons and the Flash.
I also think then it's
That
a
looks really
completely
bad.
pointless scene, John. Like you don't need a dream sequence to tell us that he's
No.
worried that Superman is like what Superman could do with his power and that he could act like a god and try to rule us all. Like I don't need to see that.
No, I agree. Like, if it has to be here, in my opinion, that's what you should do with it, not this subplot that will continue into Justice League. It's just, this is Bruce's worst fears playing like
So
tricks on it.
the thing I said when I wrote about this movie is that it can't just be a dream because why are there papers flying around when he wakes up?
Yeah.
And that's what's really confusing about that whole thing is the Flash comes to him and then it looks like he wakes up out of a dream, but you've got all these papers flying around like the Flash was in that room. Or like he either that or like he teleported back here from somewhere. You said it can't just be a dream. There's more going on there than that.
And I'm
What do
even
you-
fine if they want to have a time traveling Flash, because that's a staple of DC.
Right, of course.
But it's weird how it's portrayed, and then from memory, neither cut of Justice League ever mentions it. Like, oh, I saw you one time. You were
I
trying
think
to-
Batman references it once in the Snyder Cut, but he mentions
Yes.
it to Wonder Woman. I think.
But also
Oh,
just
okay.
the structure of the narrative structure of this movie is already like confusing enough to keep track of everything that's happening that you interrupt everything with that and
Yeah.
it's easy for a viewer to just kind of give up after that.
I like this idea that he is like so focused on what is obviously a bad idea to the point he's lying to Alfred about it.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely supposed to be misguided here. I'm much less confused about what Batman is doing than who Superman is.
Yeah. No, I'm just
Although I will say, I feel like I kind of get Superman a little bit in the Clark scenes, and then when Superman shows up and starts, throwing one-liners at Batman, I lose the humanity in him again.
I wouldn't mind that idea if it's like he doesn't know how to handle this particular situation. Like he's trying to appear more intimidating than he needs to be because he's Superman. He
Yeah.
doesn't need to be that, but he thinks that's what he has to be to like intimidate Batman into giving up the cowl. But yeah, I mean it's just there to have a cool trailer one-liner.
Well, I kind of like the idea
If-
of how much he's losing himself, and that he's gotten jaded because of all these years of being Batman and being afraid that he hasn't accomplished anything, and then now there's this big force that he can't control, and it really feels like it's all for naught because now he's not even dealing with the Joker who took whichever Robin that was away from him. He's dealing with something that he really can't stop.
If the studio was going to make them cut like half an hour out of this movie, I do not know how the studio didn't make them cut the Mad Max sequence just to be like, look,
Yeah.
the
It
average
is
person is going to have no idea what this means. Like,
It is insane that they cut half an hour out, and all of the stuff that they cut is like arguably really plot important, but that still made it in.
And where the only stuff that kind of feels like downtime is. Also, how frustrated does Ben Affleck have to be? And I'm just saying this from his perspective.
Yeah.
that the same thing happened to this kind of that happened to Daredevil. Like when you look at
Oh, I'm sure.
what's cut from this movie, it's all the talking scenes. It's all the and it's also investigation because you remember there's the whole subplot in the Daredevil director's cut where Matt Murdock is going and investigating something, and that's everything that's cut from this.
Mm-hmm.
Except it's more Clark Kent stuff, but still, it's crazy.
Yeah. One. Ultimately,
needed
that stuff
Coolio,
kind of
though.
doesn't
That's
matter
what
at
it's
the end of the day.
missing.
But,
It needed Coolio.
yeah, it did need Coolio.
But I'm sorry, Austin.
That's what should be in the third cut.
The Coolio cut. Release that.
Release the Coolio cut. Sorry, Austin. What were you trying to say?
Oh no, I was just saying. Except the only difference being that this stuff kind of ultimately doesn't really matter because Lex is just going to force them to fight anyways. But like, while you're watching it, you at least think you're building a plot here.
Yeah.
Well, and I like in the little ways that it. I'm probably the only one that thinks this, but what I like about adding the Clark stuff back in is it gives more motivation of why the minute that like Bruce attacks him, he stops trying to talk to him and just gets into the fight. Because we had that scene where she's like, he won't listen to words. Like the only thing that'll make him listen is fists.
I don't agree. Just in that he's Superman and he can just pick Batman up, and he doesn't because he's stupid. But but fair enough.
No, like I said, nobody agrees with me. That's fine. I don't care.
And then now we're about to get into the most infamous stuff with the movie because up to this point, when I say I'm with Batman, I don't mean in that I'm fully condoning his actions, but I get like where it's coming from and the way he's losing himself and the branding and everything. And then he seems to just be kind of taking guys out. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing that this in the theater the first time, and this was the scene that made my jaw drop, where I was like, "Oh, this is what we're doing? Okay." It's specifically this part where he picks up the car that had people in it, and he's like swinging them back and forth, and then it's gonna launch them into the next car, and they explode.
And I would buy
It's wild.
Superman's response to him a little more if we started talking about how he's so far gone, now he just willy-nilly is killing people. But as I've said 100 times, this is just a music video, and the script is not talking to the action. The script has no idea he's doing what he's doing in this scene. I'm convinced of this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even mind a Batman that doesn't care about like collateral damage, but like Austin said, when he purposefully like grabs a car and starts flinging it around.
When he just shoots this man straight up and then drives through him. When I remember at the time, Snyder was like, "Oh no, like Batman didn't kill them, like the bullets did, basically." And it's like, come on, man, just own that your Batman kills people. Like,
he's not telling us.
He's not even the only cinematic Batman that does. Just own it.
I don't love this scene. It doesn't really affect my opinion of this Batman, just because up until this point, they all did at some point kill someone.
I think the difference for me is that they go a little farther than some of the other ones do, but at the same time, I also do agree that like that's my issue with cinematic Batman in general. There's two movies where he doesn't murder people, and it's the Batman and Batman and Robin.
But John, the reason it's more
exactly.
John, the reason it's more of a problem here is because the narrative is about how he's lost himself and he's brutalizing people by branding them. And I mean, the other movies where Batman, with the exception of Begins, I guess, but like when you get into the 90s movies where he's doing that, you have a Batman that's, kind of out of touch, and we're not sure what regard he has exactly for the lives of criminals. This is a Batman that we're told pretty clearly this is the line he didn't cross, now he's crossing it. And then here he's way crossing it, and it's never talked about. That's why this is much more of a problem than 89 and Returns.
But to John's credit, Nolan does the same thing. Like Nolan's Batman not theorizes, will speechify day and night about not killing people and how it's his one line, and then he will also kill people in action scenes. So I will give John that credit in that. No, this is just kind of a thing that we're not thoughtful about with Batman
This is so much
in
more
action
blatant
sequences.
about it. But you're right. I mean,
No, and I agree, which is what I said. I think he goes farther with it, which is an issue.
We definitely
But
do
at the
that
same
with
time, I can also agree that it is
Tumblr
just an
scene,
issue
right?
with Batman on film.
It is really funny how he just bounces off Superman.
Yeah, that part is kind of funny. I feel like Superman would like burst through it because he's going so fast.
He did not say that on the. That is added in dialogue.
What are you talking about?
Like, not, what is it called?
What, just ADR?
ADR. But, like, not great ADR.
Batman looks so wimpy when he awkwardly goes, "You will," like after Superman flies away. It's so like, oh man, like if only I'd said that when he was here.
5-year-old on
I
the
love
playground.
the like waterfall or like the underwater entrance to the Batmobile. Or
Oh, that is cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I
that's
like that
neat.
too.
It's a super cool Batcave.
He's lucky his Batmobile still works though.
Yeah.
Austin, do you like that Batmobile design?
Not really, but
It's kind of
that was like the design around that time because Arkham Knight has a very similar one.
Yep.
yeah,
does.
I also think I don't think Snyder does like a great job covering his Batmobile. Like I feel like I never get a good look
Snyder doesn't cover anything.
at the
well.
Batmobile.
It's Snyder.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Back the
I think
damn
you get a better
camera
look at it
off.
in like the Snyder cut.
Show us things
Probably.
you built.
I probably like it more than the Tumbler just because it's less tanky and more of a car, but it's still like bat tanky. Like I still don't really like this design.
There's like one establishing shot of this gigantic Batcave, and if you blink, you miss it. Like it's like multi-story, and it's super cool looking. And I mean, they spent millions of dollars, countless hours on that, and it's like
When
Really
his-
expecting to reuse that
a
set.
few seconds.
When his Batcave reminds me of like a mix of the Begins and the Dark Knight ones. Like if you were to combine those, it looks kind of similar.
With a
It
little
does
bit
look
of the
pretty cool.
bunker from Dark Knight.
That's what I'm saying. Like if
Yeah.
you combine that with the Begins Batcave.
Oh, you said Dark. I missed what. Okay, yeah.
No, it's okay. Because I just referred to it as the Batcave, and it's not technically. It's like the Bat Bunker or whatever.
See, I would love some of this intrigue stuff if it wasn't going to the kids playing with action figures place it goes to.
Is it weird that Superman is kind of like a mixed figure, but they still have that big statue of him behind them in this courthouse?
Yeah.
Well, especially with him being so new.
Yeah, I never bought the statue.
No, the statue is a weird choice.
Well, I don't even mean like the big one. There was one behind her that was like a golden one that's like that. That's like the classic Silver Age statue that Metropolis has.
I just don't buy that after he fought Zod and blew up a bunch of Metropolis, the next thing that would happen is anyone would erect a statue to him. I feel like it would, you'd have differing opinions on him and whether he should be treated as a hero or not, but first time out, like, I feel like people would be more confused than anything. I'm not sure I'm buying that anybody would erect a statue to this person.
Oh, the person on the bus, like the speaker, just said they're going to the Narrows.
And also Kane Avenue with Bill Finger.
Yeah, Kane.
Kane Avenue with Bill Finger.
We're going to the corner of Kane with Finger Street.
somebody mentioned in chat earlier, but this actress was just in that movie Sinners, and she's really good in that movie.
She's really good in that movie. Yeah, that's the new Coogler movie, Cap.
Yeah, no, I know. I just haven't seen it yet.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you knew the title of that.
Yeah, well, you told me about it. Captain Kuhn, $2 super chat. Batman in a duster is cool because dusters are cool. It is cool.
Heck yeah.
I was going to mention this too. The guns in that scene are supposed to be, this like crazy contrast. Where it's like, oh my god, it's Batman with guns, and then in the future, and you don't expect him to have machine guns, and this is clearly not a Batman that carries a gun. And then, like, 2 scenes later, in the present, he's in his Batmobile with Gatling guns.
Maybe that's why they're willing to buy Superman, gun down these people. This is what you do if you're a superhero.
Hey, look, retroactive Martian Manhunter is back.
And he's talking about KG Beast.
And if it hadn't been so retroactive and pointless, I would have been fine with him as Martian Manhunter.
Brady, $5 super chat. Richard Cetrone, Ben Affleck stunt double in the Batman fight scene, said the nightmare scene was a last-minute added scene that was not in the script. And if that's true,
That makes
that's
so much
hilarious.
sense.
Because that's exactly what happens then with that weird Nightmare Joker scene in the Snyder Cut.
Mm-hmm. There's also one other super chat from before, too, that I don't think we hit.
Yeah, I'll go grab that.
Yeah, no worries.
Dude in the wheelchair, it's a trap! Killer Moth returns. Welcome back, man. $5 super chat. Having to explain this dream scene to my dad in the theater is the most embarrassing geek-related moment in my life. Thanks, Snyder.
That's funny.
I don't know how you'd even explain it.
The thing like that always comes to my head is I showed my dad and stepmom Godzilla 2014, and she was so confused when Godzilla started breathing fire, and I was just like, yeah, it's like a thing Godzilla can do. It's like,
Godzilla.
oh.
Yeah, but that you can explain. How do you explain Batman in a trench coat with guns and parademons and evil Superman and Flash?
You just did. You perfectly explained it. There's no more info needed.
I gotta stop over explaining things then.
Lex is a douchebag. He's gonna leave because he's gonna blow this place up. But he let Mercy go in.
But he's leaving his henchwoman because
He's specifically like, go in there, Mercy.
Because we have to kill off supporting cast members we've decided just aren't going to be a part of this universe. Like Jimmy Olsen, he's dead. Mercy, she's dead.
Well, they could have had a after credit scene where he's looking through resumes and then he sees Miss Tessmacher's. It's all part of the shared universe.
Jason, are you enjoying this movie more?
I enjoyed the hour before the dream sequence, and then after that everything went down.
Well, we're gonna get Batman hitting Superman with a sink soon.
Yeah,
we're so articulate tonight, Jason.
I'm really tired.
And then everything went dead. Yeah, well, if you've got to go to bed, feel free.
And so were the people writing this. Nah. Or I don't know. I feel like there's at least some, like we were talking about. I feel like there was at least some sort of legible script. And then it just got so fumbled. Like there's some semblance of like a good script here. At least I'm sorry.
This is what talking about BVS is like.
Yeah.
You see that light at the end of that tunnel?
That's not heaven. That's the C train.
It's been a long time since I've
That's
seen
the
that.
Narrows train.
But if I remember correctly, they cut out the scene where she confesses to lying, but left that in. So it looks like she testified and then they pushed her in front of a train.
Yes. No, I don't think that was in either. I don't think either of those were there.
I haven't watched the theatrical cut since the Ultimate Edition came out. I don't feel the need to go back to the other version.
I wish Superman just like dead serious like he is and kind of acted like he's above it all, walking down the hallway, just like uncharacteristically looked at that guy, was like, "Hey, how's it going?"
Oh, and I complained about it last night, but I'll complain about it here. His hair is way worse in this movie. Like the
Yeah.
slick back,
It's weird.
balding look. It's not great.
Yeah.
But at least
I also don't like
color
in this
correction
one.
makes the suit look better.
What's that, sorry?
I said at least the color correction is a little bit better for the suit. Like it's a little bluer.
Well, I was gonna say I also don't like his suit as much in this one because
Oh,
they
really?
put they put that silver like muscle suit thing under the actual Superman suit, which is why you have like the shiny sections, and I'm not a big fan of that.
Oh, I guess I never really thought about that. Okay. It's a trap! Dagon Spear, I didn't even understand that was the Flash. It made no sense to me. I thought it was a dream of Jason Todd because he had a flip-up helmet. Yeah, put him in something more akin to a traditional Flash costume so people can tell that that's who that character is supposed to be. A hilarious
funny, 'cause I'm
thing.
pretty sure he is wearing a Flash suit. It's just got something over it.
Yeah, but it's not a very traditional Flash suit. Like you can't really tell that's a Flash suit.
That's fair.
She's
Yeah,
like
I don't
me
think I was fully sure
right
at the
now.
time.
She can't like talk.
But I was gonna say it's really funny if you go back and listen to the Red Letter Media review of this movie where they're debating about what was even happening in that scene. And Rich Evans knew it was the Flash, but nobody else understood that. It was really funny. I broke my brain trying to understand what exactly Lex was getting at with the T and the piss thing, and anyway,
He's just showing off his power. He's like,
I've written that,
Is-
and I'm not gonna try to.
I
do
can
it
F
again.
with you.
Isn't that just him mocking her for what she said in their last conversation?
Yeah, but it's something about like deception and saying one thing but meaning another thing, and it was hard to put it together. I think I finally sort of cracked it, but it's been a while.
No, there's a couple things that we all make fun of in this movie where I'm like, I get where he's coming from. It's just really dumb. Like that's one of them.
Yeah, that's one of them. I guess sometimes it's just weirdly communicated.
They also in the theatrical cut cut out Superman bringing people out of this fire, which is like, why would you cut that?
But on
No,
paper,
there's
I
some
like
stuff.
I and again the whole thing doesn't actually really work. But on paper, I like Batman having this extra motivation, like newfound vitriol for Superman. With this guy dying and his anger at Bruce Wayne for the death of his family and all of that. But I remember it being super convoluted with like the with like the checks he never got and all of that. I don't even remember what all that was about anymore. But I remember it just
So
being
the thing
really
with that is
confusing.
that Bruce was sending that guy checks because that was like a former employee of his that was crippled at the beginning, and Lex is like catching those letters and sending them back. So that guy thinks that he's just been abandoned, and then Bruce thinks that like once he gets them, the guy's like telling him to go to hell. But I think that's part of Lex's mission.
And so is the idea that that guy never wrote those to Bruce Wayne, or he
Yes.
did write
Yeah, so
them?
Bruce sent out the checks, but that guy never got them.
Right.
Lex wrote all that stuff and then sent them back.
Yeah.
Bruce thinks that guy's been telling him like, you let your family down, you let me down. so on and so forth. And then the guy with no legs thinks that Bruce just like doesn't care about him and didn't.
Yeah, just like left him to the wind.
Okay.
So I don't mind that as because it's the same thing, like still just being like enraged about the Metropolis attack. It's just constantly like fueling that fire.
Ugh.
Jeez.
Sorry, it finally happened. Ugh.
Austin's soul like left his body there for a second.
I like the most aggressively violent sneezes. They're awful. I hate it.
What are you gonna say, Jay?
Draven G says, "This Superman can't stand to fly, and he is not that naive."
Oh, and well, speaking of the Watchmen thing, that Superman scene is the TV scene with Dr. Manhattan and Watchmen. They're obviously different in that it's not him freaking out, but that is that moment that is going to convince Superman to.
Oh, I'm sorry. We were at somebody's favorite scene. I forgot the gong. I have the gong favorite scenes. But we haven't read enough of these comments, so we're definitely going to miss some of those. Let me read this super chat real quick. Matthew Bass, $5 super chat. The fact that Superman kills the guy holding Lois hostage by tackling him through that wall, and it's never talked about, is crazy. Yes, I have talked
think
about
there's
that as
like
well.
one throwaway line where Superman mentions that guy's not dead. But it's like... And I think the idea is supposed to be that he like grabs him, flips, and goes with his back through the walls, but it happens so fast that something they should have slowed down.
At least
Yeah,
Schneider's
because it just looks like he
consistent.
just obliterates that man.
Like, he does the same kind of stuff in Watchmen. It's just that's already a violent enough movie about like morally ambiguous people that it doesn't feel as egregious even when it is egregious. Because I've always complained about that alleyway fight where we're like cracking knees and stuff. But it's just nuts that Snyder can't make a movie without that. Where it's like he's got Superman and Batman who are, known for not killing people and not going any further than they have to, especially Superman. But even Batman, he's got a line, and it's more important to Snyder to just like have what he thinks are these badass, exciting action moments. And I don't know why you can't still have that stuff without the excessive violence. Why is it important that it's that excessive? Where he's always got to make an excuse for it. He really prioritizes that.
Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom.
Well, it gets weirder in the warehouse fight in this version where they add all the blood splatters,
Yeah.
which they then do with Wonder Woman in the Snyder cut. It's very strange.
I also wish Lex cloning Zod to make Doomsday culminated into anything thematically, and that's the thing I've talked about a lot. But I actually always thought that was kind of a neat way to go. Maybe I thought it was insane that it was spoiled in the trailers. That seemed like a big plot twist that we knew about.
Oh, do we know that he's Zod from the
Yes.
trailers?
Yeah. 'Cause
Okay, I remember they showed Doomsday like in like the later trailers, but I didn't remember that part.
In a pretty early trailer, they show Zod's body, like somebody unzips a bag, and then not too long after that, you get Doomsday, and you could just put two and two together. Like, it's so obvious that that's what it's going to be.
I think that is the same trailer because I remember the trailer that shows Doomsday. I was like really excited for the first half of that trailer. I thought it was great because you get a little bit of the Clark and Bruce scene and some Batman footage. And then there's the exact moment it fades to black and you hear a creature roar I was like, oh no.
Yeah, because that's when you get that great bit where it cuts to Batman. He's like, "Holy sh!" and then he like tries to laser him.
Yeah.
Why does
That
the
lives
Kryptonian
rent-free in my head.
AI have no security whatsoever? It's just, oh, this random guy's come in here and wants information. Okay.
It's like that fingerprint scanner, but it's also an AI, so you would think that it would. No, I don't know.
It's not
Also,
that
John,
bad.
isn't the Kryptonian AI in these Carla Gugino? Am I wrong
Yeah.
about that? I thought so.
Victor on Patreon. His favorite scene is the Batman warehouse fight. So we're seeing quite a bit of that, minus the murdery bits. What I would change, ditch the Lex Luthor mass manipulation plot, yes, and teach Superman that it's okay to say more than 2 sentences to people who aren't named Lois Lane. And then he says, I was surprised when Batman starts murdering people with his car. I assumed Snyder's Batman would be brutal, but I wasn't expecting him to straight up throw out the no-kill rule.
I need to write an album called The Murdery Bits.
That's good.
Oh look, it's the post-credit scene, except it's in the movie.
Why does
What's
Lex
after,
have all of this?
Austin, wasn't it like right after this movie they made a big deal about how they never do post-credit scenes, and then Suicide Squad had a post-credit scene?
I think so. Yeah. Wasn't there also
And Justice League
at one
did.
point? Yeah. Wasn't there also at one point talk that every movie would end with like a cliffhanger into the next movie? Wasn't there also talk about that at one?
I don't know.
It's hard to-
remember that. I do remember there being
Okay.
a rumor that Warner Brothers had mandated a no humor rule, which
Yes,
I thought was
I remember
nonsense.
that.
If you watch this, like there's humor in this movie.
Hmm.
Yeah, but that
Yeah.
I don't remember them saying that until right after this. Or maybe it was before this.
I think
I
it was
think it was
after Man
after-
of Steel because
Uh,
there's like a joke in Man of Steel.
I didn't remember that theme was even in this movie.
Oh, well, and it shows up when she comes in at the end.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's in the big fight at the end. I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember that. I don't know why she's in this movie.
I mean, that's Junkie XL's big contribution.
Yeah.
Yeah,
By the
we
way-
need to stop letting Junkie XL work.
This is my question. Why is Wonder
Doing
Woman
anything lately?
even in this movie?
He did Godzilla X Kong, like both Godzilla Kong movies.
that cover of Godzilla that they do for King of the Monsters is awful.
Yeah, but that wasn't
Jason-
him. That was Bear McCreary.
Oh, right.
What does she add?
So the answer to that is, I've always felt jumping the gun in trying to compete with Marvel. So we're going, we've got to get the Justice League idea, and that's why Justice is in the title, like out in front as quick as we can instead of just leading with Justice League, which I've always said would have been maybe a smarter idea. Just do the whole thing backwards. Than what we got. But yeah, it's just doing things prematurely. And so we got to throw Wonder Woman in here, so that we can kind of have our Justice League movie before we actually make our Justice League movie.
And they almost made a movie out of everyone in the league. Cyborg just doesn't get a movie though.
He didn't get his movie.
Which is a shame. I really like him in
He's like the only good character in the entire DCEU.
Is which character? Sorry, I missed that.
Cyborg.
Cyborg.
Oh. And now we're going to the Fortress of Solitude, the metaphysical Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah. But no, just counterintuitive is kind of the word of the day with this whole thing. I also think part of it, Jason, is Man of Steel was supposed to be the start of a shared universe, and it took a full 3 years to get the next movie in that out.
No, that's a good point.
Meanwhile, Marvel's putting like 3 movies out a year, and I don't know how much of that really was the motivation, or how much of it was just Snyder doing weird Snyder things, because like Austin said, there is definitely a lot of studio interference. So it's like, did the studio say you got to have Wonder Woman already to try to like get a broader audience, or was it just Snyder really wanting her already? Like I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably the studio being like, "Hey, we want a Wonder Woman movie."
Oh,
Yeah,
also
'cause I
has
remember there was a big push from fans for both companies to get out a.
Well, yeah, but Austin, but the point I'm making is like her movie was already in pre-production. Like she didn't have to be in this necessarily. It's like, did the studio insist on that? Because I mean, like we've already got like a production still for that movie in this. Like,
But they're working on this long before that, and there's a whole point where and you can see it online, where they take a different picture, because
oh,
I don't think that's necessarily from their movie. I'm not entirely sure. They might have just taken that as a promotional still, but
but I mean, Chris Pine's in it.
well, it could just be like they had already cast. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I don't
Like I
know.
said, there's a whole other picture that's from a different time period, and there was like the original idea for Wonder Woman's
Oh, I
movie.
forgot about that. You know what? I knew this
Yeah.
at once. I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
At least the Paramount.
Yeah, 'cause one of the
logo.
things with that is that she's holding a bunch of decapitated heads. Because of course. Now we're in the Fortress of Solitude.
Oh no, I always forget about the scene. Now we got to listen to Jonathan Kent talk about his hero cake.
so has anyone else?
With an accent that he didn't have in the last movie.
This is a weird freaking scene. I'm sorry. What was that, John?
With an accent that he didn't have in the last movie.
So has anyone else looked at the history for the Wikipedia article on the list of DCEU movies, because it's really funny, because it's like every edit there's like a new change in like the upcoming movies, and it's really funny.
Oh, I bet. So does it show a bunch of like movies they didn't make?
Mm-hmm. Or it's like,
Like
oh,
the
these
four
are, like,
Harley
the
Quinn movies.
upcoming
and-
movies, yeah.
We should do a video looking through that.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
And it's interesting with MCU too.
Dagon Spear, my issue is she's prominent, but also not. She's got this stuff when she's there, and then she fights, joins Bruce, I think, cut out Doomsday, and what she got. Yeah. No, exactly. I mean,
She's
she's
just
really
kind of here.
she's really there just to be another fighter in that last scene. I guess just to make it feel more superhero-y, and so that Lex has maybe kind of more ground to stand on in making a big deal out of metahumans. Because we're trying to bring that idea in, where Superman is ushering in this like scary new era of metahumans when it should have just been about him in the first place. Because what I was going to say earlier, Austin, is Lex could have had, again, still some kind of manipulation plot. Like that's what he does. He's maniacal. But he could have been trying to figure out a way to kill Superman. And Batman could be worried about Superman and also working on a way to kill Superman. And both of them come to this separately, like kind of around the same time. You just try to find a way to not make it seem too convenient, the timing of it. And then like Batman's got his heart sort of more in the right place, but then realizes like how close to Lex he's getting. And so like instead of Lex manipulating them to fight, it could have just been Superman, like a three-pronged war. Superman versus Lex, Superman versus Batman, and then finally Batman realizing he's going too far and doing kind of what Lex is doing. There's no reason they couldn't have both been after the same thing for different reasons.
Well, in that version that I said, where you have the two of them fighting and then Lex is kind of bubbling in the background, that could be where you have Diana, where she's the only one that's, okay, that's bad over there. We should maybe be focusing on that instead.
Yeah. Yeah, Superman's just a distraction.
Mhm. Yeah, and I always thought it was weird. I think I've mentioned this in a stream before too. Once we knew that Doomsday was going to be at the end of this movie, um, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. You have Superman and you have Wonder Woman. They're going to fight Doomsday, and then you have Lex Luthor. So you have someone that Batman can go after because he can't fight Doomsday. I always thought it was weird that you don't really have that.
Jason's gonna have to go to bed. He's getting tired.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for watching
Yeah, have a good night,
2/3
Jason.
of BVS with us,
Yeah,
Jason.
good night.
Yeah. I didn't get to the crazy section, but that's okay.
At least you got to see Batman's ass.
Yeah,
That's what we all
that
came
really
here
matters.
for.
And then tomorrow you'll get to watch Suicide Squad,
Yeah, for the first time.
which you've never seen.
Oh boy.
I don't know if we're
Oh,
doing the
boy.
extended version of that. That we might just do the theatrical for that one.
I think it's like 6 minutes longer.
Yeah.
It's probably just easier to do whatever's streaming easier, which is probably the theatrical cut.
Yep.
Real quick, I just want to say, this
Oh,
armored
you're
suit.
gonna miss the fight.
Yeah, I might stick around for like 2 seconds of it.
You got to see him hit him with the sink.
So the armored version of this costume always bothered me because his face like doesn't fit in it. Like his head is too small. Like Ben Affleck's head is just really small for it, and it's really funny.
Oh, I don't have
Oh,
that.
interesting.
Like you can
I
see
do think
his like
it's-
cheeks inside of it.
I do think because this suit is fully CGI, if I remember correctly, and I do think it looks better than the Zod one. And it might help that it is like more of a full face mask as opposed to just like a floating head on the armor.
Yeah, I love this suit. I think it looks cool.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty
And
pretty
they
decent.
made the like glowing eyes work.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. That is cool. It's gonna annoy me later when Lex says "fight night." Freaking hate that.
It's fight night.
It is just
Oh,
a shame
that's
that
true.
the suit-
We're not actually at the fight. There's still like 20 minutes at
It
least to
takes
get to the
forever.
fight.
Okay, good night, Jason.
Yeah, Batman's
You know,
gonna stand.
You're not
there
gonna
for,
get to
like,
see the sink, but
I have to
Just
go
have to
night
imagine
night,
the
not
sink.
fight night.
no, John Kelling. Jason has to go to bed because he's
Have a good night,
tired.
Jason.
He had to dance today. He just came back from a dance competition.
For an entire
he's tired. John Kelling said, he's gotta go to bed because Doomsday is too scary. No.
No, because Doomsday sucked.
But yeah, Austin, with what you were saying about like not liking Affleck after this movie, I think he's better in the Snyder cut, but this is like his best performance. And
Yeah,
I
there's
really
just
wish we got a suit from this movie because both cuts of Justice League suits suck.
Oh, with the stupid
Yeah.
sunglasses.
Yeah, it's
He just
awful.
puts on the Night Owl costume. It's awful.
The sunglasses, and it's got a more of like an armored look.
Yeah. He's better in the Snyder cut than the theatrical cut, but there's just something about Affleck Batman that rings self-parody to me after this movie. And I think, like I said, I think it's just he was going through rough times in his own personal life, so he's just kind of like, I'm just kind of
that whole,
done. Like,
epilogue that they shot much later is really distracting because like he's lost all that like muscle and
yeah.
And you can tell he's just so
Very true.
disappointed with the reaction to this and
and it didn't help, being hounded about the movie, the Solo movie. It's
Yeah,
like,
that
he's,
is one of the
trying
most-
to, like promote this one movie that he's making. I don't even remember what it was called.
It was Live by Night.
Was the Batman?
That's what I was going to mention. That's one of the most awkward press tours, is that Live by Night one. Because, like, you see him visibly, like, deteriorate through it, where he's just like, oh my god, stop asking me about Batman. I am making this movie right now.
I'm gonna go ahead and read the next.
Yeah, would you?
Discord one here. This one's from Matt Bat. His favorite moment is also the Batman warehouse fight. But he says specifically out of context. Things he would change, basically everything. Most surprising thing, the stupidity of the Martha line. Question: do you think doing a Batman v Superman movie after Man of Steel was a mistake, given how divisive that film was? Does it undermine the perception of Superman as a character that can carry his own film by throwing Batman in there because he always makes money?
It did feel like that.
I never thought about it that way. Like, I can definitely see that argument. I definitely just, at the time, got caught up in the hype of, like, we're finally getting, Batman and Superman on screen together.
Well, I don't mean to be a broken record, but that was undercut for me by making such a big deal out of them fighting.
Oh, see,
I just couldn't get excited about it.
Yeah, that's fair. I knew that they would eventually team up by the end. So
Superman, could you stop threatening everyone?
I'm gonna turn you into a Stan, Lex.
Is that his middle name in the comics? Does anybody know?
What?
What?
He calls him Clark Joseph Kent.
I don't
Sounds
know.
about right.
I don't know that.
I don't know.
So I think Lex has a really interesting point here that the movie doesn't pay off. If God is good, then God cannot be all powerful, and it's gonna tie in with a line later where he says like, "No all powerful being swoop down from the sky to save me from my father's fists," or whatever.
Yeah.
Where it's he's an abuse victim that has been desensitized and led to believe that anybody with power cannot be good, but then his solution is to create a monster that is all powerful.
When I think that's just supposed to be the setup for Superman dying, and that he's not all powerful.
Yeah. No, that's right.
No, it is. But I like that as like Lex's belief system is like, you can either be all good or all powerful. You can't be both.
Mm-hmm.
But they think that whole thing is deeper than it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what irritates me about it. But I like your point about his relationship with like power and authority and how and what this has to do with his own father, and that is just not brought enough to the forefront, especially because of how long this movie is and how many subplots there are. I've forgotten all about that by this point.
No, because it's like the one little line, and it's gonna be later when Superman goes to like the Doomsday ship. He has this line where he's like, no all supreme being swoop down from the sky to save me from my father's fists. Cut out all the Justice League stuff and give me more of what happened there.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. Well, and you got hints of it with the way he's talking about his father previously.
Yeah, with Holly Hunter, that's what I was gonna say. Because this is specifically like Lex Luthor Jr.
Yeah.
But yeah, we could have brought that a little bit more to the forefront with.
Yeah, we've kind of taken the Lionel Luthor idea from Smallville a little bit with this because we have a Lex that once again is not self-made.
Well, if we're gonna be doing stuff with Batman and Superman's parents, like you could have had like a little triangle there by also really delving deep into Lex's.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, good call. And
yeah,
then
I mean, at the very least,
you make it a three-pronged father-son story.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've got and they're all tragic in different ways, and one of them is full-on abusive, and he took all the wrong lessons from his upbringing.
Well, especially if you had this as a Lex that specifically killed his father and was like an abusive father, then you have all three fathers are dead, that they have like some level of guilt or feeling around that.
Well, and that speech is actually like pretty traditional Lex motivation, to be fair. I just hate how convoluted it is, so I have a hard time like in the moment really wanting to read much into it, because I feel like, again, it's pretending like it's smarter than it is. But the idea, the whole like the all or nothing business of if you're all powerful, you can't be all good. If you're all good, you can't be all powerful. That's comic book Lex's whole thing with Superman, is that he can't get around his head how altruistic Superman is, because he's in his head on Earth the closest thing there is to a god, and he uses his power for self gain and thinks that he deserves to do that and he should do that, and he doesn't think that he's cynical enough to believe that like power must corrupt. And so when he sees that that's not happening to Superman, he doesn't compute in his brain. He just can't even deal with that. And it's not fair. Like Superman has this loophole of, well, you were born with all this power, and I had to gain it and develop it, and it comes easy to you. But then deep down, I think it's like maybe it isn't that easy, and somehow you found in yourself to be this altruistic, and he's jealous of it. Like, that's not fair, because of all the horrible things I've had to do to get to where I am today. That's how I've always seen Lags, and I think this could have gotten at that a little bit, and it just isn't talked about and explored enough. That was long. I apologize.
So how hard do you think it was for Batman to text this information to Diana with his big metal gloves?
He was just voice recognition with his helmet. He was just like,
oh, okay.
He was back computer.
Oh, I'm sorry, I lied earlier. This is the post-credit scene.
Yes.
Totally, and it would have worked as a post-credit scene if Wonder Woman wasn't in the climax. Like, if we just saw Diana in that earlier scene, and then we never see her again in the movie, and then we get this at the very end.
So Austin, we've never talked about it but I know you don't like Aquaman. How do you feel about Momoa's casting? Because he's the only one I don't know your thoughts on.
I was going to ask that too, actually, Austin.
It's very much not traditional Aquaman. I think it could have worked. It's more like I think he's cast because of the Conan thing. Like, they're more so trying to do that, but that's
they're
fine, I guess.
It's just like Peter David thing.
Yeah, that's not necessarily like his version. I guess isn't necessarily what I want, but like, I don't know, he's fine.
Because I like him a lot in the Snyder Cut, but that's the only place where he feels like Aquaman.
Yeah, I like him more in that than I do anywhere. I just don't like Brockaman when he's just like walking around being.
Because it feels like Whedon settled on that in the Whedon cut, and then Juan just runs with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what would his movie have been if Whedon didn't get his mitts on it? That's a question.
I don't know if the plot would be different, but
I think it would be the same.
But would be better.
But do you think his characterization would still be like that?
I think Aquaman's probably too far in development. Like, I think that's just what James Wan wanted to do with it.
Maybe.
Because that movie comes out exactly a year after Justice League. So, like, they're probably filming Aquaman when Justice League is, being retooled.
So I'm sorry for stopping everything real quick.
Some of the CGI looks rough here, too, by the way. But sorry, go ahead, Cap.
I just think it's important to remind everyone just how long Batman has been standing on this roof. Like
and in the rain, he's so sad.
I love this shot where it's like down on the ground and the symbols over.
It's cool, but I just think it's hilarious that we keep doing all these interjections in this movie where like now I have to start thinking about Justice League stuff again after I'm trying to like put together what like Lex's speech means and what his personal philosophy is and all of that. Like I'm trying to get my head around all these ideas, and then we get to what John's calling the after credit scene, and then this entire time Batman's been standing on this roof.
Well,
but how long has Superman been hovering over him?
This is also where, because this
Kids
movie
playing
does
action
sometimes where it'll edit things out of order. Because Superman left like 10 minutes ago, and I don't believe it took him 10 minutes to get there. So, like, is everything we're seeing happening out at the same time, and now we're advancing forward?
Yeah.
Because the ending is really bad about that, where they'll edit in, like, a flashback, and then jump back forward to the current.
Yeah, is it all simultaneous?
Yeah.
I think just all that time was just Batman going from that rooftop to the street.
So I've always appreciated that Superman at least kind of tries to have a conversation for a second, but then we undercut it by just having him like shove Batman, and then now we're fighting.
Well, my favorite thing with this fight too is just that I remember when I went to go see this, I was like, okay, this has to be a one-sided fight because it's Batman. Like, Superman will just obliterate him. So I'm like, it has to be a one-sided fight. So going into it, I was like, okay, I'm going to count the amount of times that Superman actually manages to hit Batman. And I think it's only 3 times in this entire fight, if I remember correctly, which is also really amusing. This is entirely just a beatdown over a fight.
Well, the problem is, like, Batman's not doing anything to distract Superman right now. There's nothing stopping Superman from explaining the situation. He walks in, he goes, "You don't understand," and then he could explain it to him.
But even by this point, like when Batman's like still trying to get up, this is when he should be talking.
Yeah. Well, but even like when he tosses him like that, instead he's got to say stupid crap like this.
As opposed to screaming, "If I wanted to kill you, you'd be dead."
Yeah. And like, is he just saying that to be kind of intimidating, or is that what the Superman is like? That's the thing I'm not understanding about his character.
I feel like you only have that scene earlier where that woman says he won't listen to anything but fists to set this up, where Batman has kind of proved that woman right, where now Superman thinks the only thing he'll listen to is force.
I think the issue there, though, John, is that he's not really trying to talk to him. Like, you could do that. I think that's a fine enough take. He just doesn't really try the other way either.
I mean, but he did try, and all Batman did was attack him. Like,
he walked up to him and he walked up to him and he was like, "Hey, there's this thing," and then machine gun shot Superman, which shouldn't affect him because he's Superman.
And then he just stopped talking.
And then Superman was like, "That's it. I'm just gonna beat you up."
Yep.
There's never a moment where he goes, "Listen, a woman is currently about to be killed."
Yeah, just explain it to him.
It should be that as opposed to, "Stop, listen." Never mind. I'm just gonna beat you up. Like, that's where it's stupid.
No, I asked somebody to listen to me, and they're clearly not going to listen.
Yeah, but Batman's
John, the issue is he's not talking. He goes, "Stop, listen," and then gives up.
If you tell someone to listen to you and they make it clear that they're not going to
listen. But he didn't. He just stood there. How long are you
supposed to get him to try to listen?
But listen, John.
He picks him up and throws him, and Batman's still getting up, and he's just standing there, and he's like, "You know what? I'm going to kill you if I can."
He has plenty of time.
This is where he can easily be talking to him.
Yeah, he has plenty of time to explain the situation.
Makes no sense. Superman's not trying to talk to him at all in the scene.
The problem is Snyder doesn't know how to tell story through action. And so the whole point of this is cool beatdown fight, but we have to progress the narrative with it. And he doesn't know how to keep characters in character in doing that.
Where the kryptonite wears off and Batman's like, "Oh crap." It's like, wait.
Oh, now Batman's the one that's like, "Wait, stop."
Yeah, and he
wait, listen.
They're not communicating. That's kind of the whole point of this fight.
Oh, we're about to get the sink in a second. This is just not how Superman acts. And it's fine if it's just a different take on Superman. It's just like Cap says, I agree. I'm not enough in his head.
Well, and he was talking to
'cause I'm
Lex
not
the
really-
same kind of way. Like, his default seems to be act like a god above men.
Well, and especially
And if his character
if
arc
it
is
is just
he's got to lighten up and get past that, okay, but it ends up
But
ending
also,
with
if it
just
is
sacrifice.
just,
and then after that, we always treat it in movies after that like he was always comic book Superman.
no, but if it's also just Batman doesn't listen to anything but fists, Superman needs to win this fight. Because he is going to talk him
There's the
down
sink.
at the end of this fight.
I mean, I don't disagree.
There's the sink.
That Superman should have won.
And he instantly gets Batman to stop when he's like, there's a woman kidnapped.
Yeah.
Which is how he should be starting this
See,
scene.
even that's super contrived, where he comes in and looks like he's going to try to explain that to Batman, and then conveniently just doesn't keep talking, so that we can have this whole fight, and then when he finally brings it up, it works. All you had to do, John, was have Batman have enough traps and things in place that Superman just can't get a word out. Like, there's a way to do what he's trying to do. Snyder, I mean.
I don't know. Like I said, personally, that worked for me. He gets a couple words out, and then a trap goes off, and finally he realizes the Batman isn't going to listen to him. And yes, I do mostly.
But it's
agree with Austin
automated.
that Superman should have won the fight.
But I don't
At the
understand
end.
why a machine gun going off changes his mind about trying to talk him down at all. I don't understand that.
Well, 'cause,
And like
I
the
mean,
machine
most
gun just
recent
annoys
Batman-
him. Like that doesn't hurt
It
him.
needed to be Batman doing a specific thing, like himself. That's not an automated thing that goes off.
He needs to be trying
Is
to
it
talk.
automated? I thought he like toggled it.
It's a button that Superman steps on, but what it should
That's
be
what I
is that
thought.
Superman is trying to talk, and Batman goes, "Oh yeah," and then shoots him in the face with kryptonite
Yeah, that exactly.
and starts kicking his ass. Like that's what it should be. If it has to be this, like Batman's just not going to listen to him, it needs to be that Superman is constantly on the back foot. The fact that Superman is like, "Hey, listen," and then like I said, Batman hits him with two machine guns that don't do anything to Superman. And Superman just goes, whatever, I'm just going to kick your ass. Like, that's where it's an issue. If you flipped it, and then you can justify more so, okay, now Superman's pissed because he's just been powered down and Batman's been, like, beating the hell out of him. Now you can also understand why Superman's not acting fully from that perspective anymore.
I hate all of this melodramatic macho dialogue, man. Like, Snyder thinks all of this is so freaking cool.
Batman hitting Superman with a sink is cool.
Yeah, but Batman's whole, like, you were never a god, you weren't even a man. Like, stop it. And, you know, before this came out, and not too far before this came out, I had the thought reading comics somewhere of, oh, it is kind of odd that Batman and Superman's mothers are the same name. Like, I hadn't thought of it before. And then just a few months later, it becomes this massive, hilarious plot point in the movie. And I was like, well, I guess we've gotten that out of our system. We did something with it.
And this is one of those things that I think we've beaten into the ground, where like
Oh,
I
yes,
think
of
Martha
course.
jokes are really annoying at this point. Like,
But you can also understand why it's so infamous and people kept talking about it.
I can. It's the Bane voice to me though, where it's like it was really funny, and then we just beat that horse until it wasn't anymore. And I think a big part of it too is that anytime this movie comes up, that's the big thing people talk about, and I don't even think it's the funniest thing in this movie.
No, but it is one of the most baffling, and it's the biggest place where I can't take it seriously anymore if I could at all by this point, because it just feels like such a childish plot point.
Well, this and the Jolly Rancher scene are two scenes where, like, I understand what he thinks he's doing.
Yeah.
It just doesn't really work.
No, it's all about the execution of it.
Yeah.
There is a subtle way to do that. And again, that's so massively contrived. Like, why would you say your mother's first name except that he needs to hear that? Like, it's preposterous. Brady put in a $5 super chat. There's a lot of rumors based on Gunn's recent interview that his Superman sequel he's writing could be a world's finest movie. Yeah, and I don't think it will be.
Yeah, it's a big fan theory. I also don't think that's what it will be, but who knows? I do think at some point Gunn will make some sort of Batman movie.
Oh, you know what? In fact, I think we can double down and just say for sure, absolutely unequivocally, that's not what he's doing, Austin, because his response when that rumor came up was so tongue-in-cheek, where he was, like, he basically just laid out, like, plot points from this, like, making fun of that whole idea, where he's like, oh yeah, and I'm gonna have them fight each other, and I
didn't think I saw that.
yeah, like, he's basically come out and said, no, of course I'm not going to follow up Superman with another BVS. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
But their Justice League will 100% be called The Justice. We have to reboot, so we have to add the...
Well, especially because he hates superhero movie titles with colons. So that's all he's got. Is to put the in front of it. That's all he's got. He doesn't like subtitles. Unless he calls it JLA. He could do the acronym thing.
Or JLI.
Yeah.
But probably not. It'll probably just be called the Justice League.
I think JLI would just confuse people. And then you'd have fans that would be like, oh, see, everything's got to be a comedy. I think if he did an acronym, it would be much more likely to be JLA, but...
I could see him going with the Justice League of America.
As a title. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it could be.
That would actually be pretty classy. Now that you said that, that's actually
kind of funny that he hates.
It's kind of what I hope
superheroes
he does
with a colon. Because I remember seeing that interview. Because they changed the Supergirl.
They changed Supergirl, yeah.
I thought that was really funny.
His point about it looking like you're looking backwards though is fair.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's just for first movies or if he means just in general. But
real quick, sorry, Austin.
Go ahead.
We had a favorite scene. Somebody listed this shot as their favorite.
A lot, actually, several people did. And also people said the fight, of course. So we gotta hit that too.
Yeah, this fight is awesome.
We should read some more of these, John.
I've got one more.
Okay.
I'll be right back. I'm just going to refill my water. This is a Mania, so I'm allowed to be unprofessional.
Yeah. In fact, I'm going to get up here in a minute, too. Kando Tor, Batman's fight at the docks to save Martha. That's his favorite scene. But Bruce in the wreckage of Metropolis is a close second. He says what he changes, drop the death of Superman stuff, have Doomsday be a watered-down Bizarro instead. John, I'll interrupt Kando Tor for a second and say, I had this thought, though. It may not have been a bad idea to set up Doomsday, have a Doomsday fight at the end of this. That's what brings Batman and Superman together. And then you have a big cliffhanger where Doomsday is still there. Like, they've... Like, maybe they've gotten him out of Metropolis, but they haven't full-on beaten him yet. And then in a sequel, he can kill Superman. Although that would have to probably be, like, your first act plot point in your next movie. But then that would be okay with me, where you do all of Death of Superman in a movie, and you do kind of a 3-act thing with it, where you kill him in the first act, and then you have a world without Superman in the second act, and then you bring him back in the third act. That could have worked.
Like, I don't care enough about Doomsday to say that, like, he can only be in the Death of Superman adaptation. My big thing is more so, and I don't even mind the idea of, like, the Justice League being formed around Superman's death. It shouldn't have been in the second movie.
No, I don't think so either. But with everybody suggesting other things besides Doomsday, what you have to remember is Snyder was always building to Death of Superman because he was so obsessed with Jesus allegory, and that doesn't make any sense if you don't kill him and have him resurrected. Like, you have to do that somewhere.
Yeah, and I'm fully fine with them doing the death of Superman just later.
No, it's just ridiculously early, especially because, again, I'm a broken record. I've said this a lot, but I don't feel like I fully understand their Superman, and so like we kill him when I don't even know what his values are.
This is gonna be completely shallow of me, but this whole warehouse fight scene was a big deal to me personally because we finally got a Batman that like fights like the Batman that I've always imagined. And, like,
I got back just in time to see the part where he grabs that man's
Oh
testicles.
no! Well, and John, it's so Arkham-y.
What? I was really hoping I wouldn't miss that part. It is like the weirdest shot where he walks in and he's like, "Ugh,
Yeah, I've got to watch for this again.
crap."
So is it like right after this?
No, it like just happened.
Oh, I missed it. Okay.
It's that guy stabs him and then he like stabs the guy with the knife and then he walks over and he like stares like really deep at him and he goes,
I'll
"Ugh."
have to go back and look for it. I was looking for it. I didn't get it. Okay. All right.
It's really weird.
And then
He crushes that man's balls.
And I'll finish his comment. The thing that surprised him, I walked out of the theater thinking it wasn't as bad as its press, but still wasn't good. Liked it a lot better after the ultimate cut, but still have major issues with it. And then his question for us is, what villain would you cast Eisenberg for? I thought when he was initially cast, coming off Social Network, that was a home run, but he pulled a Tommy Lee Jones and just played a different character. I still think his casting for Lex is not bad. Just what they give him to do is bizarre.
I really like on paper him as Lex Luthor. It's just it's too goofy Lex Luthor. Like this should be like the cinematic Rosenbaum-ish Lex, you know, a much more serious, like charismatic, plotting Lex, not Jim Carrey's the Riddler before he becomes the Riddler.
I just think I wouldn't cast Eisenberg as a villain. I just don't think that works.
But if I had to pick somebody else, the first thing that comes to mind is Mad Hatter.
Yeah. Or I mean, I, maybe I'm wrong. I could also just see him playing a straight up Riddler.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I'm struggling to think of villains that I would cast him as.
But yeah, this idea of Zod as Doomsday is such a missed opportunity to me because Superman never even knows that, I don't think. And it should feel like kind of history coming back to haunt them. And just
They
none of that
never
ever
talk
plays.
about it, but I don't think it's a stretch. Like it's another problem where the movie's not communicating with dialogue because he knows it's Kryptonian. So I don't think it's a stretch for him to figure out that it's like something from Zod because that's the only other Kryptonian left on Earth. Um, but no, they never like have a dialogue about it. Have any dialogue about it?
Well, how does he know I mean, he knows it's Kryptonian technology.
Lex just says it's like a Kryptonian abomination, and he comes out of one of the like fetus things from Man of Steel, so he could have just thought that the ship had the capability to make that.
Yeah. I'm not sure how he would get Zod from it. And we don't get an expression from him or anything that suggests, like, oh crap, this is Zod again. Or
Yeah, that's
we're
fair.
like,
And I also don't know how much of this is Zod. Like,
because he
is
should
body
feel
the
some
base,
responsibility for it.
Yeah, like this is Superman paying for his sins. For
Yeah,
killing
that's
Zod.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which also kind of wrecks your Jesus allegory a little bit.
But Cap, Batman had a kryptonite spear, like the spear that pierced Jesus' body.
Oh, are you saying the Spear of Destiny?
I am saying the spear of
The
destiny.
Spear of Destiny? Because we only speak in
Yes.
superhero movie quotes. Daniel Davis, some of the fights, like the one Batmobile chase, were well executed. That's as much as he can come up with for best moment. What he would change: remove all the external DC elements and just make it about Batman and Superman. Sure, you still have Snyder's faux pretentiousness, but it'd be far less of an embarrassing attempt to ride Marvel's coattails. And then he says the thing that surprised him is the Granny's peach tea thing. He says, which I'm pretty sure is the moment where in my theater I went, oh god, this is going to be a special kind of bad, isn't it? I'm good. Lois is supposed to be the key, but I'm actually the key. Martha is really the key. Because if it wasn't for Martha, Batman would still be trying to kill Superman.
Hey, look, it's Turkish Airlines.
And they did a whole like
Nobody's
series of
favorite airline.
commercials,
They made a ton of Turkish Airlines ads. That's a big thing I remember from this
I
period.
remember
Yeah.
those. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing, that we'll get, it shows up later in the movie. Because isn't this the same year as X-Men Apocalypse?
Yes.
16?
2 movies where we have to explain why a bald character is bald.
Yes, that's true.
It's true, yeah.
I've got one last...
And 2 gigantic disappointments if you're me.
Your 2 favorite bald characters.
That's true.
I've got one last comment here in Discord.
Okay, yeah, go
this
ahead.
One's from Super Billy. He says favorite scene is the warehouse fight, despite all the murder or killing by proxy. He changed the entire script. Most surprising thing is the notorious Save Martha scene. I've long wanted a DC film to acknowledge the fact that Batman's mother and Superman's adoptive mother have the same name. Be very careful what you wish for. And then his question is, if Snyder was fired by WB after Man of Steel, but the studio insisted that a Batman v Superman movie still be the immediate follow-up, who would you hire to write and direct? I think the tricky thing is if you're gonna have to hire somebody to do a follow-up to a Snyder film, I wouldn't want it to just suddenly be a completely different thing. Because then you have like a Whedon situation where it's such a Frankenstein.
Well, it's the Amazing Spider-Man thing.
Yeah, we talked about that last night a little bit. Because I suggested that a kind of sharp turn could maybe work. But Austin, I think it would need... Well, I was going to say I think Snyder would still need to be the one directing it, even if you try to go in a more traditional Superman direction. But, like, Webb did Amazing Spider-Man too. Like, it was the same director.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's a bad director, so that's whatever. But, I mean, I guess my go-to would... I guess would be... Because I always wish we got the Vaughn Superman instead of Snyder's.
I was also going to say Matthew
So
Vaughn.
I guess it would be Matthew Vaughn.
Yeah. That's fair.
But, like,
Honestly,
like
if
John
I-
said, though, I feel like I would want a reboot, though, before just a sequel to Man of Steel at that point.
Yeah, because then it would just feel like a completely different thing. And
Yeah, it would
Man of
already
Steel,
feel like a
whether you-
reboot.
Whether you like Man of Steel or not would feel like the odd man out.
Mm-hmm.
At one time, I might have been interested to see what Duncan Jones would have done with a Superman, but I don't know if I have that now.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, this is the girl that had one of 3 moments of levity in the last movie when she said Superman was really hot. You remember that?
Yeah.
And if I
Now-
remember correctly, isn't that supposed to be Carol Ferris?
Is it?
I've never heard that.
I believe.
I thought that
read
was
somewhere
just
either
a
she's
chick.
credited or it was
I don't know.
maybe it was a fan theory that's supposed to be Carol Ferris.
That
That should have
sounds
been the
like
running
made up
connection
to
of this
me.
universe.
Green Lantern supporting characters.
Well,
No, at the end of Man of Steel, she's like, Superman's hot. And then at the end of this one, she could be like, Superman's dead. And and then at the end of Justice League, she could be like, Superman's back. That should be the running thing that connects these movies. She shows up to say something about Superman.
No, John, I was gonna say it'd be
but
like
even with what we have in the DCEU, I don't know if you have this because we never really talked about it. The later half feels like a different universe than the first half.
well, yeah.
Oh, I mean, yeah,
I mean,
100%.
and they keep course correcting so much. But John, what I was gonna say is, what you were just talking about would be like the Arrowverse, where we just keep bringing up Green Lantern stuff, but we never get to Green Lantern.
Well, and this universe kind of does that because even in both cuts of Justice League, you get like that big war flashback with Green Lanterns.
Austin, do you know how bad I wish that's what they'd done with that that girl
woman?
now? And then just the end of every movie, she just says something about Superman. Oh, he's dead!
It's like her grandmother is there at the end of World.
How do you,
She's like, "Oh no, Steve Trevor's dead."
Batman? How do you know that?
He's smart.
There's a lot of like dumb assumptions and well, no, I just don't like the way he worded it, where he says only Kryptonian weapons can kill it. Like saying we need kryptonite probably is fair, but like Kryptonian weapons, that's such a weird way to say that.
Well, Batman doesn't know what this is. Like,
Yeah.
he wasn't there when Lex said this is a like Kryptonian abomination. Like, he would have no reason to even think this is Kryptonian.
No, but he says straight up that thing is Kryptonian. How would he know that?
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
Batman would have no.
I don't get it. How does he know
knowledge
that?
into
I mean, to be fair, like what else would it be?
Batman just found a USB full of Aquaman, Flash, Wonder Woman,
be all
Yeah,
kinds
and
of shit.
He
Cyborg.
thinks that
Yeah.
Wonder Woman is with Superman. Like he doesn't see any difference between these people.
But he's seen like the other things with those other people. Like, is he gonna go up to Aquaman and be like, "So you're Kryptonian, bro?"
Yeah, is he gonna go? The only way to kill Aquaman is with Kryptonian weapons.
There's the other big trailer moment.
Oh yeah. Now Austin,
I like that
it
moment
would be
more in the trailer though. Where he's like, "Oh shh," and then it shoots him.
Austin, it would be fair if Batman assumed that he was Kryptonian after he used heat vision. Like if you saw that happen, and then when it's probably Kryptonian, then I would have bought that. But he said
He's
it
got like
before-
full face heat. It comes out of his mouth.
face heat.
Yeah, I don't even know what to call it. It's not even vision at that point because it's also breath. Then he like has the electric explosion thing.
Why does Wonder Woman show up exactly in the moment here that she shows up? And are we supposed to think that what happens?
It's
with
from
the
that
Justice
Turkish
League
Airlines
Drive?
scene. She sees this on the news.
Oh, that's
She
right.
sees this
That's
on the
right.
news and dashes over. That just happens to be when she.
You know what? I knew that. I forgot about it.
Because that woman's like, "Miss Prince, why are you leaving?" And she just doesn't say anything. This is the filler allergy.
Now, if you didn't have all the other pointless Justice League stuff, because I mean, it's just too much to distract your audience with, and it's too contrived to force them in here. I guess the one thing, if you could come up with a decent enough reason for Wonder Woman to be here, that gives you is just pulling the curtain back and saying like anything goes in this universe. Like it's not just street level vigilante justice with Batman. It's not just science fiction and space aliens with Superman. Wonder Woman gives you the rest of the universe. Like it gives you the potential for your cosmic stuff, and it gives you like Greek mythology. Like it does immediately say this is the like grander comic book DC universe.
Well, and then I guess there was that. Sorry, go ahead, John.
I don't even mind like the reason they write in that she's here, that like Lex has something of hers. because that feels like a kind of a comic booky way to get a character into a story. It's just it shouldn't be the Justice League stuff.
She should also be played by an actress. I would like it more if that were the case.
I don't know if she's fine in this movie.
No, I was going to say to your point, Cap, too. I think Snyder has come out and said now that they also talked about making the Greek gods Kryptonian, where like they left Krypton like years before.
Ooh, I'm glad
So
they
Wonder
didn't do
Woman was
that.
also almost Kryptonian.
Wow. Well, then Batman would be right. It's just everything's Kryptonian.
Just everyone is Kryptonian.
I like Snyder's movies. I feel like a lot of the stuff that he said after the Snyder Cut is just stuff that he thought of in the moment. Like, I don't buy that any of the stuff that came out after the Snyder Cut was actually what they were going to do.
It's so hard to say because the plans were always shifting. Like it's even while they're making them.
And I buy some of it because there's like, photographic evidence of things he wrote down while he was like planning for stuff that he couldn't have come up with retroactively. So like things could have changed absolutely, but you can't tell me that everything we know he said he wanted to do were things that he came up with retroactively in the moment in interviews. We know for sure that's not true.
That's fair.
A good example
Because I've
would
seen
be
outlines
the,
and stuff, like handwritten
a good example
outlines.
would be the Bruce and Lois romance thing. Because that's obviously cut by the time we get to Justice League, but that was a thing that they were going to do.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It's like there is just a lot of we're retooling things in the moment.
And Dagon Spear keeps bringing up the thing about like Superman and Lois having a child. I'm pretty sure that was really supposed to happen.
Was supposed to be, I think, Batman gets Lois pregnant, and then
That's what it
Batman
was.
dies, and then Superman and Lois raise the baby.
That's what it was.
This is one of my favorite parts where they do the Dark Knight Returns shot, but he misinterprets it because Batman Returns, he's going like that, but he interprets it like that. And I just think that's really funny.
Okay, you guys talk amongst yourselves. It's a 3-hour movie. I gotta get up for a minute. I'll be right back.
Okay, no worries, no worries. It would be funny if Superman just drowned here.
Of all the things that are convoluted in this movie, I think this is my least favorite thing.
Just the spear, like the.
Yeah, the spear. They threw it back in the water, and then happened to need it, and she has to go get it and almost drowns.
Oh
so
yeah.
then he has to go get it and almost dies because it's kryptonite.
Well, we're trying to build tension, but it's like it's not necessarily needed when you also have Doomsday here.
Yeah, because like and like I know you don't like her, but I want to point this out. For this take, because I've accepted that these are the new 52, versions of the characters, which is also why I'm forgiving, because you're right, this isn't definitive, and I'm glad that we're now getting something that looks more definitive with Gunn. I like that she's having fun with this fight.
I guess. I don't know. She is definitely New 52 Wonder Woman. I agree with that.
Yeah, and that's the scale I'm grading it on. Not as Wonder Woman as a whole. Just
yeah.
This is
I just think. No, fair enough. I just think Doomsday has more life in his eyes than Gal Gadot.
and I do like people like I don't love the Doomsday design. I do love the detail that he's constantly like growing.
He's like shifting into it.
Yeah,
well, it's so weird because I feel like we're building to comic book Doomsday, but then we don't fully get there. It's really strange because that seems to be what it is. Because I agree with you. Like I'm fine if he starts that way and then looks better by the end of it. We just don't go all the way with it.
Yeah.
That's a
some of the
travesty
screen is wonky. Like that shot to Batman looked really weird.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you guys. Like, it would have been really cool if we did the bones and everything, and that initial design could have looked like something closer to comic book Doomsday. But ultimately, it's just super gross looking, and
This is kind of the only Zod connection, Cap. Like, you have a he stabbed the father, he stabbed the son thing. Like, it's the same way that he kills them. But it's not like we're really talking about it. It's just if you catch it, you catch it.
I've never thought of that.
That is, I think, the biggest issue with this movie for me personally is it relies on you to catch a lot of the things visually without actually talking about it or having a conversation about it.
And I think it's a cop-out to say he's giving the audience a lot of credit with that stuff because it's so much of it is like blink and you miss it, and it doesn't feel like it's emphasized.
Well, I think there's just stuff where you go, but like, okay, and like I think we talked about this off camera, Cap. But there's a thing with this in the Snyder Cut where I think it's like the exact minute that Superman dies in this is the exact minute that Superman's resurrected in Snyder Cut. And it's like, okay, but
what about that?
And like, what about that?
Yeah.
So Austin, there's a shot coming up here.
Oh, is it the big cross shot? I was just about to mention that.
Where Affleck like comes out of the rubble and like starts to walk down in an initial trailer. I thought that was him like walking forward to intimidate someone. But no, it's just him walking in the context of the movie.
Yeah, sorry, no, I thought you were talking about this shot where he's handing Superman down. There's the big cross in the background. No, I know the one you're talking about.
Because we gotta do that.
No, that's very on the nose. But I mean,
your Superman needs to look a lot less morally ambiguous to me when you're gonna do this much Jesus stuff.
Well, and it's weird if you're gonna do the Jesus allegory, but then he gets impaled through the chest to be killed. Like, wouldn't it be in the side or?
I mean, I don't know that it matters so much exactly how he dies, but. But it's just you made me feel like all he really cares about is this one person with Lois, and the rest of the world maybe be damned. I'm not for sure, but it kind of feels like that in places. And also you're telling us that he has the capacity to go to a despot place with the Nightmare Batman sequence. Like, you've already got that planted in our minds, but then you also do this Jesus allegory and you have him make the big sacrifice at the end. And like, Jesus lived a perfect life, and that's why you do the Jesus allegory, because Superman is like the closest to that at least in the DC universe anybody would ever be. And this Superman is just not that guy.
To your point, Austin, about the green screen, that last shot when the camera's like backing off them and they're all just kind of standing there, that looked really weird. But that shot right before it is the one I'm talking about, where he like drops.
Yeah, I know where he's like.
And I thought
I remember that from the trailer. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was him like in a fight, and like we were gonna get some Batman intimidation scene. No, it's just him taking a step forward. Remember when they dropped that scene with no context onto YouTube?
Yeah.
Like, now we've seen Steppenwolf. It's
so
just
strange.
It's thing after thing after thing, and my mind can't process all of it, and I have no context for most of it. Draven G.
Well, and Steppenwolf doesn't look anything like Steppenwolf, so even if you know who that is, your mind's not immediately gonna go to.
No, and here's the origin story for how Lex became.
Well, here and also, John, it's the Lionel Luthor thing from the end of season 3.
You know what they could have done to make me like this scene is have that same opera music from the Smallville.
Yes.
Play.
But anyway, real quick, Draven G says, that's a good point. Why didn't they just give Wonder Woman the spear? I think I wrote about that also in the
issue. The issue with that, like as it's played in the movie, is that she's holding him down with the lasso. That's
never bothered.
They could switch places, but like that is supposed to be the justification for it, is that she's holding him still. Because they do all three of them are involved in a second, where Wonder Woman's holding him, Batman shoots him with the kryptonite grenade, and then Superman flies in to finish the job.
Okay. But
Yeah,
the thing
that is
is,
something I-
it's made of kryptonite, and he's Superman, so somebody else needs to be doing that.
No, of course. I'm just saying, like, that's the reasoning in the movie. Like, could Superman have flown and grabbed the lasso from Wonder Woman and been like, "Hey, go do that"? Like, yeah.
I'm a hair on
But
this
I feel
for
like
a
at that
minute.
point it's just kind of nitpicky. Like, it's
But like with everything else with these,
Also-
like we keep saying, Austin, it feels
just kinda
like
contrived to
a
get
really
to the
contrived
point.
thing so that he can be the one that dies there.
Yeah, but also I feel like if they'd done it the other way, then people would have complained that Superman asked somebody else to do the dangerous thing instead of just doing it himself.
Grimlord 31 is a name I don't recognize, but he's suggesting something I've never heard before. He says apparently Snyder also said there's a more comic book accurate Doomsday out there in the DCEU for some reason.
Oh, I remember when he said that.
But
Because
it
they
wouldn't.
specifically say that Doomsday is like a old Kryptonian abomination that they're recreating, and then Snyder was like, "Oh yeah, real Doomsday exists out there. Don't worry."
Yeah, but you had this Doomsday be the one that killed Superman, and Doomsday is a plot device to only do that. That's why
But you
he
see, Cap,
exists. Who gives
You
a
see, Cap,
crap
he
if
said
there's
that.
a
He
real
said that
Doomsday?
after people complained.
Yeah, now that one is like what John's talking about. There's no way he didn't make. He had to have just made that up.
You understand? There is a different Mandarin. Okay, we know you're angry that the
Well-
Mandarin was an actor. There is another one out there.
Well, John, I was gonna say it's like the real Jimmy Olsen nonsense.
Yeah, I don't really care about the whole Jimmy Olsen thing. Like,
No, I know, but I'm just saying it's like that. It's like we gotta say there's a real one.
and I mean, at least with that, you do have the justification. It's a CIA agent. Like, they could just be using somebody else's name.
Now I did
Which is
cry
'cause-
in the theater. Somebody was making fun of me about that earlier. I did because I got to see Death of Superman on the big screen, and then it never affected me like
And then
that
they-
again.
And then they kept doing it and kept doing.
And yeah, and then I realized, okay, I'm only having feelings of nostalgia with this because I'm not actually resonating with the Superman. Brady 499 super chat. Rewatching the 3D Blu-ray version of the film, the Doomsday fight is really cool, and the depth in the scene is really good and immersive. Is anyone else watching this in 3D? We were talking about this last night.
wish.
I have the 3D disc for Man of Steel, but I don't have a TV that would play it, and my eyes can't see in 3D. So
I used to own this in 3D just because it came with that, but I don't anymore.
Would you have had any way to
I
play
wanted
it?
to say though with the Jimmy Olsen thing, my main issue with it is that it's just a middle finger to the audience because they were mad about their real Jimmy is Jenna Olsen, and then people got mad about it, so they did that.
no, I was talking about the Smallville thing. I was just using that as an example.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, I was.
I
was just
figured you were
using that
talking about
as-
Smallville, but then when
Yeah.
John was like, "I don't care about the Jimmy Olsen thing," I thought you were talking about.
Oh,
Okay,
no,
sorry.
sorry. I also thought you were talking.
Oh no,
about
I
the
was
CIA.
no, John. I was just talking about Smallville, where it's like, oh, there's a real Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah. No, that was silly.
See, this is where she needs to be like, Superman's dead.
Superman's dead. The Captain Coon $5 super chat. Thank you very much for the support tonight, guys. Superman dies in this like King Arthur and Excalibur, impaled while killing his enemy with a spear, and pulls himself closer to dig his spear in deeper.
Which is definitely intentional, because that's the movie playing when Bruce is leaving the theater. It says Excalibur.
Oh, that's right. And he was
it's
talking
got
about that
that
last
on
night,
the
which
on the
I was not aware of.
billing or whatever, and then there's a poster for Zor.
Chewbacca's lover. I cried during Revenge of the Sith, but I was a child.
Oh, that's more embarrassing though.
How embarrassing!
I'm sorry, Chewbacca's lover.
You should be. Can you please stop antagonizing my patrons?
It's so easy though.
Dan's Den, this was incredible when it happened. I kind of had that in the theater, and then never again. Sad Affleck.
That is the one thing I don't want Gunn to ever do is Death of Superman. I'm sick of seeing it.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
there at this point too. I'm sad to say. It's never been done correctly though. Although I say that, I haven't seen how it was handled in Superman and Lois. Because I think they
I
did
mean,
it
I like
there.
that show. I like that show, but I don't have faith in them being able to do it correctly.
I don't
Well, I
either,
think they just did
but-
their own thing with it.
Probably.
That's what I heard, but I've not gotten that far.
Slipmaker says you can antagonize me. I'm okay with it.
Thanks, Slipmaker. I appreciate that, man.
Bully me, please. Why is this extra talking?
Austin. So I'll just get this out of the way now. Because we're
Yeah,
gonna
we
have to
have
do
fun during the Wonder Woman commentary.
we're gonna have to do Wonder Woman tomorrow. I don't think she's a great actress. I don't think she's as bad as Austin does all the time. But there are definitely times where I think she's every bit as bad as Austin thinks she is all the time.
You walked
I saw her
away
in
when I
this.
said that Doomsday has more light in his eyes than Gal Gadot.
I saw her in this, and I had no faith in her acting ability. And then she really surprised me in Wonder Woman, and then never again.
Yeah.
Like I've not seen that spark that I saw in that movie from her, even in her own sequel. And I know Austin doesn't even agree with me that she's good in that movie, but just from my perspective, I don't even know where that came from. Because I felt like I was looking at a different actress in that movie.
I feel like in that first movie, it's just like the right role for her, that fish out of water.
She's able to play that
Thing.
naive thing.
Yeah.
I think Chris Pine's just so good in that first movie that like there's some splashback.
Yeah, she's got something. She's got somebody to play off of.
Austin is like, I cannot give Gal Gadot any credit for anything she's
I
ever...
genuinely can't because I don't think she's ever a good actress, but I do think that she and Chris Pine have chemistry because he's really good in that movie. I'm just saying, Chris Pine can have chemistry with a broom. I know, I've seen Wonder Woman. He did not want to be an 84, though, so...
I don't think anybody wanted to be an 84.
So let's do
So this is the weird...
real quick.
weird
Let's do
scene
our
I was
favorite
talking about.
scenes. Because my
Okay.
favorite moment in this movie is ding 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 ding, and always will be. Sorry, John. What were you gonna say?
This is that weird scene I was talking about where like Bruce and Wonder Woman are talking, and then it edits backwards. But like this isn't moving the timeline in the movie forward, and the movie does this a lot, especially in the third act.
Oh, like this is supposed to be right after they shaved his head?
Oh,
Yeah,
I see what
because
you're
Bruce
saying.
is still at the funeral telling Diana something, and then it just jumps back to here.
Do we jump back to the funeral?
Yeah.
You're right, we do. Okay. I think... I just always go, okay, he does this after the funeral, but no, you're right.
No, this is one of the weirdest structures of a movie of anything I've ever seen. And again, I feel like I need to take notes and make graphs to keep track of everything, and then I still don't fully understand what's happening.
See, I don't really have that until you get to the third act where it starts like jumping all over the place.
Ding, 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 ding.
My favorite scene, to nobody's surprise, is the Batman warehouse fight.
What is yours, Austin?
It's either the part where he crushes the man's testicles in the warehouse fight, or it's the part where he hits Superman with a sink.
Look, Batman's learned his lesson. He's not too extreme in his violence anymore. Except he probably is running people over right now in his Batmobile as he's leaving.
Yeah, he killed KGBs. and then started joking with Martha while KGB's body burned in the background.
There is something really weird about the way this is shot. Like, I don't know if it's a CGI set or something, or it's the lighting.
I'm not sure.
Well,
So,
yeah, 'cause, like,
I
we
could
jump
see
to
that
the
being on a
prison
green
to
screen.
Is
I
it
don't know.
weird to
we jump from
anybody
the prison
else?
to this picture, and then we're gonna go back to the funeral.
Is it weird to anybody else that Lex has this premonition of Steppenwolf or Darkseid or whatever it is he's seeing, and then we get to Justice League, and he's not in that movie? Like, you'd think he'd be in that movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's weirder that he's just a post-credit scene.
That's probably a shift after people don't like this movie, right? Like,
Yeah,
where
but
they go, people didn't like our Lex.
But John, I'm not
cut
even
him
talking
out.
about the Whedon thing. I'm talking about the Snyder cut. I'm saying it's weird that he'd be, and I think Austin's right. I think at one time he was supposed to be in that, because it's weird, right? That you'd be like, you know, a portent for things to come, and he's like flipping out like ding 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 ding, and then we never go back to that prison and like have him give us any more details about it. Like, that's typically what you do with that.
He's almost like a Hannibal Lecter in that movie.
Yeah.
Like, Batman goes to see him to be like, what's going down?
Yeah, it's very strange he's not in that.
Yeah, I imagine it's probably that.
Because I think in both cuts he's just a post-credit scene. And he sets up Deathstroke, which we never got to see.
Wait, he's post credits in the Snyder cut? See, that's why I thought you were talking about Whedon.
I think so.
What?
I don't think that movie has a post-credit scene. He's post-credit scene in the Whedon cut. I think it's just a scene in the movie.
Oh, no, wait,
Snyder
you
cut?
know what? You're right. Sorry, Cap. It's the same scene. It's just in one cut, it's the post-credit scene, and the other, it's just in the movie, and I got it mixed up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's all good.
But yeah, I thought he would
Because it's
be...
the scene where Deathstroke like comes onto the boat.
Right, yeah, no, I know. But I didn't remember that being in the Snyder cut anywhere. Is it?
Yeah.
Weird.
I'm questioning myself because I'm like, I don't remember well.
I don't think
but I
it
feel
is.
like it is.
I'm like 90% sure it is.
I've only seen that the couple times we did it for the channel, though, so I don't know. Like, we talked over it once, and then we did a review. So I've seen it twice.
And I've seen it thrice, but I don't remember.
So yeah,
I think it's in that.
And that was what? That was over COVID, wasn't it? Was that 2020?
Yes. It was
2021.
So I haven't
maybe the
seen
start
it
of 21.
21. So I haven't seen it in 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that movie, but it has that problem of being 4 hours long, and I'm rarely in the mood for a 4-hour long movie.
Tyler, what does the dirt rising up actually mean? He's still dead in Justice League. I ranted and complained about that when I wrote about this movie, and it's just there to get a rise out of the audience.
What's like X2, like the Phoenix thing, like 2X3. Like, I'm not saying that's an issue in X2. Otherwise, Cap's gonna stab me. I'm just saying, like, it's that same thing. Like, it's that.
You're right. You're right.
Look, they're gonna come back, and then the sequel does something completely different.
Well, and I would say it's even like Magneto with the chess piece at the end of X3, but then we don't follow that up with anything. So
Yeah, we just never really got an X4.
Okay, so we got a clarification in the chat.
Yeah.
In the Whedon cut, he proposes to Deathstroke to make the Legion of Doom. In the Snyder cut, he tells Deathstroke who Batman is.
okay, I knew it wasn't the same scene, but I couldn't remember if it was in it.
Can I just say, though, instead of calling it the Snyder Cut, he referred to it as an acronym, which is SNUT. Can we just all call that movie the SNUT now?
No, I don't want to ever hear that on the
No.
channel again. That sounds disgusting, and I don't want to hear that snot on my channel ever again. Okay, I'm gonna read the rest of these comments real quick. Justin Hayes, best scene, the party scene where Bruce and Clark meet. One could say it's one of the only mostly normal scenes. I kind of alluded to that earlier, and it feels like a real Batman movie would. Snooping around, researching the White Russian. Don't even mind Lex in this scene, honestly. What I'd change, the last act is abysmal. Like Joe Turner said, just save Doomsday for another movie, or B, replace Doomsday with Lex in his kryptonite suit instead. John suggested that. What if the big hunk of kryptonite was coming to Gotham because Lex needed it to power his God-Killer suit? I love how everybody's pitching something they think is better. You know, like, all we can do is rewrite this movie. Or whatever Snyder would call it. Maybe that's how Batman sees to the light. He realizes he's turning into Lex. Oh my god, he's saying what I said. I swear to God I didn't read this first. He realizes he's turning into Lex, even making a special suit to kill Clark with, but nah, it's fine, I guess. They got the same mama's name. Bag, I can't believe you and I both came up with that idea, because I thought of that tonight. I've never suggested that before. Biggest surprise, Batman up and shoots a dude, and flattens a bunch of other dudes with his car, and their cards, and then they explode. That all happens. I just had a moment with Bag. I don't even think he's here in the chat.
It is weird now, though, that we're at the end of this movie, that we are officially done with Snyder for like the rest of the week, I think, until we get to the snot next week.
You're I'm gonna fire your ass.
You're gonna fire my ass over snot?
If I have to keep it here, I don't want to hear it anymore.
Over a snot film.
I don't have to put up with this.
It's my new favorite thing. I'm gonna start saying that just in my daily life.
I was waiting for the excuse to say snot film myself. I
think Austin should be banned from doing the Snyder Cut commentary.
Yeah, because every 5 minutes we're gonna have to hear snot.
I don't want to hear that for 4 hours.
I don't want to hear it. Shut up.
That's my new Smurf thing. I'm just gonna throw that in the place of words.
Joe Turner, favorite scene, Batman's warehouse fight. Yeah, so like, I don't know, 8 out of 10 people said that. What main thing would you change about the movie? He put 3 consecutive climaxes in again. Doomsday should have been saved for another movie. So we got a lot of consensus there. What surprised you most? How well Affleck did as Batman. I was skeptical like most people when he was cast, but script issues aside, I thought he was excellent. Austin, how much of his like clear seething disappointment that you can read in his performance, as you were talking about post this movie, also, you know, like we were talking about personal issues in his life and stuff, but how much of it do you think also comes from getting burned with a superhero thing twice? Because he said he'd never do another superhero thing after Daredevil, and then he did this, and then he got burned again.
And then his movie gets given to another director who's like, I don't want to have to deal with any of this stuff, I'm going to make my own. And the person they cast as one of the villains in one of his Daredevil movie. And it took off so well that he got his own show.
He got his own show. Yeah.
That sucks. That hurts.
And that's one of those crazy superhero movie history things that you could never have begun to predict.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, Affleck, like, I remember when he was cast, like, it was like, oh, that's weird, but I was never like, oh, like, I'm super against that.
No,
I was like,
I could see it.
I'll give him his due. Like, I'll wait till see it. I feel like if you were just to say, yo, Colin Farrell's playing the Penguin, like, that's more of like a what?
What?
That's weird. It's a weird choice.
Well, and then when you finally saw an image of it, you go, oh, they had to cheat by taking a bunch of stuff on his face. That's how it works. Okay.
Like, oh, of course.
I've got one more of these, and he didn't even answer everything. Damian Wade just says, the Batmobile chase to get the kryptonite, it's just a fun car chase. You know, if you ignore all the murder.
What murder?
What's a murder?
There was lots of murder. Well, thank you guys for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had fun.
Hmm.
I still like the movie. Sorry, everyone in chat. I still like it.
Yeah,
John's
but
just like, I don't want to speak to any of you guys. You guys bullied me. I'm not even coming back for Snot. Like that. This is it.
stop it. This is always true of John, though. He'll love a thing that I think is abysmal, and then I'll get him on a commentary with it, and he's still critical. It's not like John's just ignoring like everything that doesn't work. We can argue about some things that are effective and some that aren't. I'm just not with John on the thing with Superman coming into that fight and not explaining it. Like, you're not going to convince me that that's okay.
This is an interesting movie in that I've had 10 years to accept the fact that I'm never going to change anyone's mind, and I don't care. Like, I don't know. It doesn't
fair
matter
enough.
If anybody is one over on it.
All I'm trying to say, John, is you're not a crazy person.
No, so I am a fan of Snyder's movies that is sometimes embarrassed to be a fan of Snyder's movies because I see all this crap online. I'm like, oh god. I'm also really excited for Gunn's Superman movie. I think it looks awesome.
Yeah, so see, you could like this stuff and still not pick teams.
No, the picking teams thing is nonsense.
Oh, I hate it. It's not sports.
I care.
I mean, it's done with
I care
sports
about the
too,
character, not the director that made, millions off of making the movie and doesn't know who I am.
See, my team would kick your guys' team's ass, and you're only saying that because you know that.
Austin, everybody in the comments is saying snot.
Of course, it's beautiful. I agree with Chewbacca's lover. He says that you should call the Snyder Cut one just the Justice League snut commentary, and I agree. That's what that video should be called.
I am not agreeing to this. I'll have to give this some thought.
John Kelling sound off snut in the chat, everyone.
Everybody's saying it. Thanks a lot.
Chewbacca's lover says Snyder made Dawn of the Dead together, and they did. That's Snyder's best movie.
I want to say thanks to everybody that left a super chat tonight. Thanks for the support. Once again, if you want to get your opinions on these movies heard, we've still got 14 more of these to do. We're going to do 2 more tomorrow night, back to back. You can become a patron at patreon.com/geekvolution. We got a couple new patrons this week just to do this. Thanks a lot to those guys as well. Guys, this is working out really well so far. We'll see if we get burnout even like really close to immediately with having to do 2 of these in actually I think 3 days we've got to double up, don't we?
Yes. When tomorrow we have the worst movie of the DCEU, so like that's gonna be fun.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on who you ask, because I don't have that, but
It is one of the worst ones.
We'll talk about it, but yeah.
Although now that you say that, I guess I'm not sure what I would necessarily say, because I mean, like, I have the one I'm most angry at, but I don't think it's technically the worst. So
yeah.
But yeah, so Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I just think like technically, like on a technical level, Suicide Squad is probably the worst film in the DCU.
Well, and I mean,
I do think they've made films I would much less rather watch.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah,
but I do think on a technical level, it is their work.
I was complaining about the weirdness and structure with this, and Suicide Squad also has that for different reasons. It was just really bizarrely put together. But we'll talk about that tomorrow, and then we'll do Wonder Woman right after it. So join us for that. Tomorrow night, we're going to try to start a little bit earlier. We're going to start at 8 Central if we can. We might be a little bit late. Konnor asked to come on for that one, and that's the absolute earliest he can be there. So if we're a few minutes late, we're waiting on Konnor. But we're going to have a pretty big panel for that one. We're going to have Konnor, we're going to have Robert, and Jason for at least that first movie. And Austin as well. So anyway, appreciate you guys. Thanks a lot for being here. Sorry, I'm going to refresh this page real quick because it just broke on me. I want to make sure I'm not missing any super chats or anything. Yeah, just a lot of snots. Okay. Thank you guys for being here. And
That's a lot of snot.
And we'll see you again real soon, everybody. I was Captain Logan. This was Austin the Day Ghost. And John, thanks again for being here, buddy. Come back for another one.
Hey, I volunteered for 3 more movies.
I forget what the next one is that you volunteered for.
I'm going to do the Snyder Cut with y'all.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Well, then, aren't
Hopefully
you doing,
you're in the mood for a
the
4-hour
Suicide
movie.
Squad and Black Adam as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Because I mostly signed up for that one just to do the Suicide Squad because I love that movie. But I've also never seen Black Adam. So this is
That's the one I'm most
finally
excited
watch it.
for.
James Egan, we're just going to do the theatrical version of Suicide Squad. I believe.
Yeah, like I said, it's a couple minutes for the extended cut. Like, it's...
Yeah.
I don't even know that it's worth it.
Yeah, I think at most it's like 10 minutes.
Exactly.
Anyway,
But
we
Austin,
appreciate you
I
guys.
raised your Suicide Squad is the worst made DCEU movie with Wonder Woman 84.
No, Suicide Squad, just on editing alone, is a way worse made film than Wonder Woman 84. I would probably rather watch Suicide Squad,
I
but
would too.
it is a worse movie.
But you know, we
On
could
a technical
argue
level.
they're maybe together the worst paced of them.
Worst paced, and I think Wonder
Yeah.
off memory, I haven't seen Wonder Woman since it came out. I think Wonder Woman has some worse effects.
Oh yeah, that's got
Yes,
some really rough
it-
effects.
It absolutely does. I think it's just like Suicide Squad is like somebody threw like just a tin of film up in the air and just like took out a knife and just started cutting at it, and whatever landed is what was the final edit of the film.
Oh, that's a movie that
Wonder
feels
Woman does
like
not have that.
that movie feels like they're finishing the edit the day it comes out in the theater.
Stanley Kubrick was still editing Suicide Squad when he died.
Okay, we're gonna
I'm
get going.
telling you, it says Suicide Squad the thud.
Okay, bye everybody. Thanks for watching.
Good night,
See you
everybody.
later.
Good night, everybody.